first interview of the day. Super excited for this one. So do you want to tell us who you are, your role, and why you're at Bett, I guess?
Sure. So my name is Andrew Sliwinski, and I lead product development for Lego Education. So that's the design and the engineering and probably most importantly, the educational impact of everything that we do in terms of learning products in the Lego group. And we are at Bett this week to show off a lot of really exciting new stuff. So we launched our new science line last year at Bett. It was so great to talk to you folks about that. And then this year we have a new computer science and AI literacy product that we're really, really proud of, that really tries to kind of expand the definition of AI literacy from just chasing the latest chatbots and frontier models to really focusing on getting children to develop an understanding of the fundamentals of artificial intelligence at a much deeper level. And then, of course, because we're the Lego group, giving them tools to actually build things with it, right?
It's really interesting. I'm going to go off on tangent. I apologize. I always do this.
Great.
But it's that thing of the mechanism and the rabbit hole of how the connotation, how the collective power of the power of playing a physical thing and actually getting back to the principles of learning and fun, when people see AI as taking away the creativity and all of those wonderful things, how a Lego interacting that keeping the creativity, focusing on the down things that they're doing, but also bringing AI into that.
No, absolutely. I mean, you go into most classrooms, right, where you have, computer science and artificial intelligence is broadly being taught by like kids staring at a screen, sitting alone, sometimes even with headphones on, right, isolated from each other. And so our vision for this is like, everything that we know from decades of education, research, and practice is like kids learn best when they're hands-on, when they're engaged, when they're a part of their learning. And so what we've done is we've taken years of testing and development to figure out how to bring that kind of approach, how to bring that kind of pedagogy to AI literacy.
Your passion comes out clearly, always, in the conversations that we have. Maybe for the listeners that might not be aware, beyond Lego and yourself, what's one thing that you're really passionate about that has brought you into the role that you're doing and the work that you do?
So I've been in this space for many, many years, and I absolutely adore what I do. I'm really lucky to have been one of those people that found their passion kind of younger in life. I was studying design and I was paying the bills, being a math tutor. And I was in Detroit, and somebody from Detroit Public Schools came and they were like, do you want to help teach math in Detroit Public Schools? I was like, yeah, absolutely. And it was like my first time in the classroom. It was like this moment of like, clicked, yep, this is what I want to do with my life. And I've basically been trying to design learning experiences for children that are meaningful from then on, and that led me to MIT, where I was co-director of Scratch. And, I sit on the board of Raspberry Pi Foundation. Like, there's that red thread of trying to connect kids to powerful ideas through making, through building, through being physically and sort of emotionally engaged in their learning.
Our listeners know, I'm going to tell them really about that. Fingers in many pies then, which is, with the Raspberry Pi joke, and all that kind of thing. But in terms of taking that to a higher level, rather than the big picture of Lego, you must work with schools in many, many different countries, many, many different regions. What does it look like? And what do you feel it is to be a well-run school, college, or organisation? What do you see the core principles of, from your view?
Oh, that's such a wonderful question. It's funny, I often get the inverse of this question from, particularly when we travel and when we do testing around the world. I often get these questions from school administrators and even teachers, which are like, how are our kids different from the kids in China or Japan or, Nigeria or, Brazil? And what I always say is like, kids are kids. It's the systems and the cultures around kids that are different. And so I think your question is spot on. I think right now in the current moment, I'm seeing this kind of this anxiety, right? Like the pace of AI seems to be able to fill us with either like unbridled optimism for a newly possible future or like absolute existential dread. But I think in that anxiety, so many school systems are just frantically trying to, almost like robot proof their children or AI proof their children. And I think what's often happening is that like pedagogy is going out the window. Training teachers and preparing teachers is going out the window. In some places, I think ethics and responsibility and sort of a commitment to the well-being of children is going out the window. And so I think around the world, the schools and the teachers and in some cases like the countries that are doing the best is the ones that are taking a deep breath and sort of recentering themselves on children. Like, okay, what do we want children to learn? How do we want children to learn it? And then let's build our AI policies and our pedagogy and our policy, and our curriculum around that, instead of like frantically trying to integrate, the latest AI trend or the latest frontier model. Like, stop chasing the tech and start chasing what's right for children.
Yeah, and I think it's one of those things of stop chasing the next thing, not the next thing, but also that constant cycle. Yes, it's an infinite game. There is no finish line.
Yeah.
We know that in learning and education, in life, really. Yeah. But it's also that thing of build stable foundations. These people are going, oh, we want AI. And it's like, you don't even have bar brands. You don't even have principles and structure of training and support for your any of those core principles. You're building things on quicksand.
Yeah.
Focus on that. Yes, AI isn't going away and we need to resolve that and focus on that. But at the same point, don't focus too quickly and ignore everything else.
Yeah. And I think predominantly I'm seeing a lot of schools, a lot of ministries kind of falling in that direction. I do see in some places the absolute polar opposite of that, which isn't super productive either, which is just deer in the headlights, completely frozen. Until I understand this, I won't teach it. I'm just stuck. And that's not really productive either, right? The pace of technology is relentless, particularly right now. And, in some ways, I think the optimist in me, right, is what better time to rethink some of the fundamentals of how we teach children than right now. And I think one of them is, let's finally sort of get over this hump where we feel that teachers always have to be the experts. Like, the way that I like to say it is like, create space for curiosity in your classroom that includes your own. Right? Like, the most powerful thing that you can say to a kid is like, I don't know, let's go figure it out together. Right. And right now, that's the only way that you can navigate this space. And so I think there's a space on both sides. Like, let's say valued in our principles, or let's say anchored in our principles. Like, let's say anchored in what's right for children. And like, let's acknowledge the fact that we have to show up to this with curiosity as well.
And the next question was around what do you believe and think the future of education looks like, feels like, but ultimately, do you think it goes back to those bits of core principles and values, but also layering on top the different, and I love what you just said in regards to curiosity, but also creating space. Yeah. And it's that bit of, yes, education is full, but how can we make sure that we don't then put more into it and say, let's add technology, let's add AI. And people then go, it's a bit of a niche. I don't have time because it's like, how can we create space? Because that stuff is needed. We need to create spaces in the gaps. And we have conversations. But do you feel that's a prominent issue?
Yeah, I do. I mean, I think the worst thing that can happen in this moment is that we use AI to supercharge failed pedagogy, right? Like we can absolutely use AI to supercharge rote learning if we want to, right? It's super good at that. Is that really what we want for children? Is that, that is the easy thing to do technically, right? Something that I always say to my team is never let the tail wag the dog. So what I mean by that is like, never let the tech lead the learning, never let the tech lead the child. We should decide, as I was saying earlier, what we want children to learn and how we want children to learn it. And then the tech should follow. And I see so much of like, the easy thing to build with AI is to supercharge rote learning. So I built that. And I'll sell that. And, some schools will buy that. But is that really taking full advantage of the moment that we're in, right? And I don't think it is. So I'd like to see that. I'd like to see that trajectory change.
Yeah, and focus on the why.
Yeah.
Why are we doing something? And ultimately, what would be even better if we continued and maybe added a layer on? Also, what do we need to stop doing?
Yeah.
Let's not just go, oh, AI can do this. It's like, should we even be doing that? Have you even considered? And I'll tell a little bit of the story. When I was in a previous role, I had a conversation with a multi-academy trust. Obviously, the UK, many, many different schools, and they finished the day at 3:10. 3:10, and I said, okay, you now have tens, I think it was over 40 schools in your multi-academy trust. Why did you finish at 3:10? And the CEO went, I've no idea. And he said, I'm going to go away and find. And I said, you've no idea why you finished your school at 3:10. The funny story was, and it's about change, the founding principal of that school, the first one, they finished at 3:10 because the bus that picked the kids up and took most of them home came at 3:15 outside. So it gave them 5 minutes. So they weren't lurking about, weren't challenging anything else. They had 5 minutes to leave the classroom and get to the bus. And I said, right, so you're judging, all of your schools finish at 10 past that don't have that bus at 15:15. I said, can I just ask a question? Does that bus still come at 3:15? And he went, I'm going to, and it doesn't even come at 3:15 anymore. And I said, so even, I know we talk about AI and big picture, but I was like, that's just a real example of don't get your head of how we can fix or make solutions better for problems that no longer exist.
Yeah, I think like there's such an incredible opportunity right now to amplify the real goodness that we see in classrooms that teachers bring in, and also to leave some things behind. And I think there are a lot of wonderful people, I think, trying to do that. I think we're trying to do that too. But I also see a lot of places in the industry where we're amplifying the things that we should leave behind.
Yeah, absolutely. So we're going to finish with one quick fire question.
Yeah.
Okay.
And I've got a really quick question, if I'm all right to ask you.
Absolutely not. Yeah, of course.
It's funny.
Yeah. If a 10-year-old asks you why you have to go to school, what would you actually say?
Oh, that's such a wonderful question. I love that. I think for me, it's like the starting question shouldn't be, why should you go to school? The starting question for the 10-year-old should be, what are you curious about? What are you excited about? And then school is a place to explore. School should be a place to explore that, to amplify that, to like enable them to explore that thing, right? So it actually goes back to my prior point, right? Like learning is not an end into, you know what I mean? It's like figure out what children are excited about, what makes them come alive, and then school should support those things, right?
Absolutely.
And we need to find ways to connect to children's interests and their passions more directly, I think, in school systems. Are there fundamental, foundational literacies that are essential for all children? Reading, numeracy, creativity, collaboration, I think, is a fundamental literacy. Yes. But I think the question that we often forget is to actually ask the kid what they care about.
Yeah. What do you care about? How do we light the fire? How do you make you more curious about it?
Yeah.
And actually feed that curiosity into other things that you might find more difficult, not as fun, but you still got to do something.
Exactly, because it's scaffolded by their motivation.
Absolutely. Yeah, light a fire. So it's been absolutely wonderful. Ben's going to ask one more question, but it's been as good as I hoped. So.
It's so nice to meet you.
It's one really strange question. It's really interesting. So one of our friends said, you're interviewing the guys from Lego. So the Americans call it Legos. The UK and the organization is called Lego. Is it because a Lego is one brick or Legos is plural brick? Is there a reason or is it just random?
So there is a reason. So Lego is the brand. Lego bricks is the elements, right? So in the Lego group, we never say Legos. We always say Lego bricks or Lego elements. And so, yeah, so Lego, it's actually helpful if you understand a little bit of Danish and you understand where Lego comes from. So it's short for legot, which means play well. So you wouldn't say like, go pick up the play well. You would say, go pick up the play well bricks. So that's why. Yeah.
Well, that's super cool. And we're going to, in the show notes for everybody, there's been some really interesting new developments, isn't there, with the digital bricks and the other bits that go with it as well.
Yeah, we've had a really exciting 3 weeks. Like last week, we launched all of this craziness. The week prior, we launched Smart Play. And then yesterday, we launched our very first line of Lego education products for use at home with parents and kids for home learning. So it's been a whirlwind 3 weeks, but it's been so much fun. It's great. Yeah.
Well, it's great to be here at Bett 2026, and we're joined by a guest on the Edufuturists podcast. Could you just tell us your name, role, organisation that you work with?
My name's Gav, and I am the Managing Director of Salamander Soft. And obviously we're here for the next 3 days to talk about automation. We really sort of pin ourselves on being the foundation of a school's digital strategy, be it a school, a college, a university, a multi-academy trust. And we sort of deal a lot of in automation, a lot of identity provisioning, and really laying the foundations for that ease of access for students, to take the workload off the admin teams, and to also allow the teachers to teach without them having to worry about creating classes and distribution lists and communication channels.
Yeah. Okay. So at Bett here specifically. Tell us a little bit about what the message is, if there's any new products, what you're talking about at Bett 2026.
Sure, yeah. We're talking about that automation piece. I think as technology grows so quickly over the last few years, it's been ridiculous how quickly technologies come in, and really finding that value added technology, the proper ed tech technology that's been designed for education, and how we can help provision the access to that so that it becomes a lot easier for kids, for teachers to get into the innovation side of it rather than the admin behind it, that kind of thing. Our real message this year on top of that is how we're moving everything to the cloud, obviously, as everybody is.
There?
Yes, we're up there somewhere. But yeah, moving to the cloud and all the wonderful new functionality that comes with that, how we integrate them with all the different MISs as they move to the cloud. But also really adding the value added stuff of new functionality, new features, new integrations, and really an easier way of doing the stuff that we're doing, giving customers a little bit more access. Up until quite recently, we've been very much a 100% service driven. If you need something, we'll do it for you, with the idea being taking all of that admin work off the school. We'll just do the whole lot for you. Obviously, a lot of the feedback is that's wonderful. We absolutely love that. We'll buy into it. Is there any chance we can just do that little bit there? Password reset or something like that. So we're adding that functionality. And that's really what we're talking about.
I like that a lot. I like the fact that obviously the work that you do is about making this a little bit easier. Schools, colleges, universities, they're hard places, right? We know that conversations about teacher workload, teacher retention, teacher recruitment, and not just teachers. And this is the key bit,
That's
right?
key.
It's very easy for us as ex-teachers to talk about just teachers, and the models and the programs and the frameworks that you use are very much about supporting those who support as well. And that's really clear, by the way, in doing our prep for this, is that you're not trying to just be another MSP or another tech solution. It's about the support. So I'm going to ask you something that's, it kind of ties into why you do this, because I know you're relatively new into role as an MD in the space, but passion, you care. It's clear from an organization you're trying to be passionate about transforming learning, which can be a buzz phrase in education, can't it?
Yeah.
But for you, what's something you're passionate about that you bring into that work?
Yeah, sure. So my background, I've been in IT since 2000. I had surgery on my lower spine 1999. Very quick career change due to just being lying in front of a Hewlett-Packard PC for so long. I thought, these computers have got something in them here. I taught myself into a job in 2000, at a very small school part-time. And ever since then, I've been in some way in techie, the ed tech piece for schools, supporting the teachers, supporting the technology in various guises all throughout the years. And even though we all say that technology is coming on so fast, coming on so well, the actual challenges behind it haven't. They're still there. And that's something that obviously we are very, very passionate about. We very much started off from the angle of get rid of the admin, get rid of all the manual stuff that the IT teams have to do to allow access to this stuff. Get rid of all that. Then, of course, then the secondary impact on that is then teachers don't need to worry about whether the IT team have created the right classes with the right people in, created the right distribution lists with the right, all the teachers or the kids in year 7, for example. All that kind of stuff is taken away. And so our passion really has always been rooted in relieving workload. And yes, predominantly IT guys and the admin of that. But we're very much aware of teacher workload. Of course, everyone is. But as you said there, the key part is every role in education has got an incredible workload. And technology, for the most part, can be the answer. It can help. But ultimately, the reality is just the human connection behind it. That is the most important thing. And we need to keep that. Technology is not there to replace that. It's there to amplify it. And so we're all very passionate about that mix of we'll take all the manual work away, do all the admin, and then you can actually have those touch points with your classes and stuff and actually teach them.
And the other thing is about it, a lot of these IT teams are wanting to help. They do IT services, like as a business function, they're usually called IT services, and they want to serve the needs of students, educators, leaders, but get pulled into cloud, this, provisioning this, fixing that. Well, if we can find ways to do that And this ties me really nicely into like this next conversation. We've been focusing on asking conversations about what well-run schools or organizations look like. Now, you run an organization, you're MD of an organization that's part of a broader group, right? But we're asking a question about what does a well-run school, college, university look like? I wonder if, just a little twist on that, is there things that we can take out of this business world that can help into that well-run?
Yeah, 100% agree. There's a lot to take away. Again, that question of what is well-run is obviously very subjective. Lots of people have different opinions on what well-run actually means. For me, I would really sort of focus on a few of the fundamentals that schools do consistently well. And I think just dipping into our business here as a software company, we are inherently agile. Bit of a buzzword as well in the world of sort of management and project management stuff. But we are inherently agile, and I think there's a significant amount of that can be taken into other organizations. And one of the most powerful pieces really is the shallow leadership structure.
Okay.
So for me, one of the key parts of a well-run school is the values-led piece. So you know what the school means, what they're trying to achieve, and who they are. And obviously, in a shallow organization with a few leadership and then your troops, that's an easy message to convey and get the buy-in. So that values-driven thing is really essential there. You've also got things like trust. So what you really want to do is you want to make sure your recruitment obviously is really, really good and you're getting the right people for the right role, but then trust them to do that job.
Yeah.
Give them guidance, give them the direction, and then let them go. And behind that, of course, dipping back into our business and how it helps education, once you've got rid of the admin side of it, once your technology actually works and is reliable, and you're not coming in every day thinking, oh my goodness, are there any new users coming today? How many kids are going to ask me to reset their password today? And all that stuff is gone. All that innovation, all that stuff follows through. And they are the two real key bits there. Obviously, going a bit wider, safeguarding. And child safety, making sure that the children feel that they are seen, they are heard, and they are safe and supported. And all of that is time sensitive stuff. So again, it's almost like a secondary thing for us. Yes, we make sure the data's safe and secure, and all the automation is there for your leavers. So when somebody leaves, their account gets disabled and deprovisioned how you want it to do. All that's there to free up the time for that human touch point again, to make sure that the kids are getting what they need from their teachers. Those are sort of the main areas. A biggie, what a lot of people talk about, and it's a really interesting piece, is data. I think 100%, certainly with our business and certainly with everybody these days, data-driven decisions are, of course, absolutely key.
Yeah.
But boy, there is so much data out there. There is so much data, and schools are getting thrown data all the time, all these different things. And it's very easy to just be overwhelmed by that and get lost in the weeds of the minutiae of the data.
Yeah.
So I think it's very important that a well-run school, for me, focuses on the data that's important. Obviously, it's not in a spreadsheet somewhere. They've got an actual proper system that can analyze it and show them data that's going to make a difference rather than getting lost in the weeds.
So much in that: agility, trust, data, making decisions around that. And then also that we create spaces where things are safe, but also the agility piece that you started with is a really interesting one, because we know that education generally isn't very agile, but neither was a lot of business. The fact of like agile methodology as a buzz phrase is it was lean before that, and then it was structured and waterfall and all the other bits that go with it. We're in that space now of going, well, agility is one of those things that you just almost, if you have that sat as a premise of a school, of an organization, then we can go, right, if we're going to be agile, that means we hold things loosely and we hold some things tightly. And what are our non-negotiables? It comes back to values and stuff, doesn't it?
I think also on the agile bit there, and we've done well to get this far without mentioning it so far, I think AI has suffered a little bit of that.
Yeah.
Wherein it's sort of the agile methodology, you would say, okay, what's the end goal? And that's roughly we're going to aim for. And then what's the next iteration? What we're going to do in the next 2 weeks, 2 weeks after that, and so on, and have those iterative changes and adjustments. It feels like schools have, not through their own fault or anything, just suddenly jumped to AI, just hit it with everything that you can do.
Yeah.
And I think that's not necessarily dangerous, but I don't think that's necessarily the right thing to do. And seeing the new government framework that came out a couple of days ago about the safety of it and everything, I think hopefully it's not too late to bring that back in and that the cat hasn't already bolted, or the horse hasn't already bolted.
Cat's out of the bag.
Yeah, cat's out of the bag, horse
Horse
is
is
bolted.
bolted.
Thinking outside the envelope. But hopefully that will now sit in and say, okay, well, what is AI for?
Yeah.
You know, what is the point of this? It's not just a tool. Of course it's not. It's more than that. But it's also, you can't just have the kids chucking their homework in and just getting the answers out of it. You know, there's a lot of iterative steps of rein it back and let's see where we're going with this. And then where we end up may not be what the end goal was, but it's going to be a better journey than just jumping in.
That's super cool. That's a super cool way to think about it. So, I know we found out you're a listener, podcast, subscribe to newsletter and whatnot, and have been kind of in this space. Our questions almost always are about future education. And we can't predict, we haven't got a crystal ball, but what do you, maybe you personally or the organisation, see is the future of education?
Yeah, sure. It is a really good question. And it's something that we talk about in SLT really, really often. And we try and immerse ourselves. One of the, again, another reasons coming for Bett in the first place, not just to make the connections, but to see what people are thinking.
Yeah.
And see where that's going. For me personally, I think it's sort of the future of education probably starts off with that very famous image. I think it's famous anyway. I've seen it a lot, of a classroom in the 40s and a classroom now. And they both look exactly the same picture. And you look at the same for technology in the 40s and technology now, it's a completely different picture. I think that idea that the classroom, the desks, the pen, the paper, the four walls, the teacher at the front talking, I think that needs to change or be redefined.
Yeah.
And I think we're a long way away on that. And I think obviously the COVID situation made people realize, I feel, that actually that is a possibility. It's not too far, too much to do, too hard to work out, particularly when you've got the automation behind it to do it all for you. So I think the future education has got to move away. And I feel this works as well for when we talk about things like device sprawl or app sprawl and, you know, all these billions of things that you could do, is looking at it and saying, okay, a vanilla solution does not work. And off the shelf, out the box, teaching 101 doesn't work anymore. You've got to focus on that personalized journey.
Yeah.
And really it's beyond that. It's like a hyper personalized journey where we have the data, where we know how kids learn, when they want to learn, what medium they want to learn, what they actually have access to, what it means at home. The homework, which is a lovely podcast that I've seen of yours when you talk about homework. What does that mean now?
Yeah.
It's no longer, I mean, I don't think homework was ever a means by which kids learn something new at home, because that's ridiculous. But to go into that community aspect of what a school should be, it's a way to engage the parents in what the kid's doing at school, and how you do that. As a parent myself, my boy brings back homework, maths homework in particular, and it'll just be questions. And he'll say, Dad, can you help me with this? And I'm like, I can't. I could probably work out the answer, but the way I did it is different to how you do it. And you think, if you just change that narrative to, here's 3 questions that we did today, show your mum and dad or your parents and guardians how you did that. And as an engagement, not a learning plan, just an engagement, so that the parents can get involved with it too. And have
That's
that.
cool. That's
And
a nice way to
it's
think. I
really,
like that.
I think that's a really important thing. And that doesn't fit for me into the wooden desks, pen and pencil at school, 4 walls. You learn 8 till 4 or whatever it may be. And that's your learning window. It's all that's got to change. We've got to, I mean, the internet and technology is just there. It's ready. Let's go for it. A lot of online learning. I'm going to mention it again. When I said I wouldn't, AI could be a helping factor there.
Yeah.
It could be a thing that helps with like reading coach and stuff like that. It's really, really cool.
Yeah.
Again, very carefully and done properly. But yeah, that's why I think the future of education is redefining the classroom, redefining the learning hours and the structure and the medium. It's a big shake-up. And I think we're in great positions to say, well, all the admin of that, don't worry about it. It's there for you, ready. You just work out how you're going to deliver that.
That's cool. That's cool. I'm going to ask you one last question. Okay. And then feel free to leave us with a message, whatever you want to do. We ask on the podcast, you've probably heard it. If a 10-year-old asks you why they had to go to school, what would you actually say?
Wow. So I have actually been asked that question almost daily by my kids over the last few years. Yeah, and I've always said, probably not in these words, paraphrasing slightly, that it's you're learning, going there for the skills.
Oh.
You're obviously going there to learn maths and all the rest of it, of course, so that you got all you need if you want to further your academic journey later on. You need to get your GCSEs if you want to go to college, if you want to go to uni. Of course, there's that path. But really, one of the most important things is they're going there to meet other people, to learn about community, to understand things of the transferable skills and all that side of it as well. I'm worried that there is potentially a trend of the exam factory thing, where schools are just becoming whatever it takes to get a GCSE. That's it. And it's more than that. And I think schools want to be more than that too. But that's kind of what I would say to a 10-year-old. It's certainly what I say to my kids. Yeah, of course you're there to learn maths. Yes, of course that lesson's boring. But the wider piece of it is you're learning how to solve a problem, not just that maths problem, how to think about solving that problem. You're learning about how to ask the teacher for help. Probably one of the most crucial aspects of life is to be confident and comfortable to ask for help. And then if a school doesn't foster that, which I'm sure some probably don't, then that's a key bit too. And to have my kids be comfortable to ask for help, to get support, and to grow.
Love it.
I probably wouldn't say those words to a 10-year-old.
No, but I hear it.
Similar.
Yeah, it's about growing. Yeah, I love it.
So, do you want to tell us your name, your role, and your organisation, and why you're there? I guess.
Yeah. So I'm John Roberts. I'm the CEO, Chief Exec at Oak National Academy, Oak, as we're called. We are helping schools deliver a world-class curriculum for every pupil. And we are basically the government's sort of curriculum implementation body. So we're an arm's length body of the Department for Education, and we've built an implementation of all of the national curriculum subjects that are open, optional, adaptable. Schools can use them up and down the country, and we've got a huge number of teachers using us every day to help plan and teach really great lessons.
Perfect. And I suppose it's that thing of Oak will be symbolised probably forever, and hopefully it's trying to change that thing of a response to something.
Yep.
And we won't dip into that. How have you been evolving as an organisation and everything else to maybe not rebrand, but really frame actually that Oak is there and is important beyond just what the pandemic was?
Yeah, well, it's a great question. And, we have come a long way, and thankfully the pandemic is long behind us now. And, we had huge use. We spun up with a huge number of volunteers over literally a 2-week period, and myself included. And we had about, 25 million minutes of video being watched at the peak times during the pandemic. Education, schools, the system's come on a long way since then. We've rebuilt all of our curriculum and resources since then. We've openly licensed all of those resources. They remain optional. They remain adaptable. Everything that we built during that time was, built quickly with lots of support from schools and multi-academy trusts and others. But what you can build in that short period of time is never going to be perfect. And we really wanted to improve and increase the quality of what we'd done and implement just in a way that really supported teachers to teach a really high quality curriculum in lessons up and down schools up and down the country.
Yeah, and I know obviously there's structures within education, but obviously pre-COVID and post-COVID and just the world in general, nationally and internationally, is actually there's so many children that are learning outside of the four walls of a building. Do you play a part in that in regards to the school?
Our primary focus absolutely is supporting teachers to teach that great curriculum. I mean, pupils do access Oak outside of school. There are, we have a pupil view that you can go and access. Teachers will point them to that content as well, either as part of a lesson, as part of homework, as part of, extracurricular or at-home activities, and others do use it. But the primary focus that we have is really supporting teachers to plan great lessons, to deliver a world-class curriculum, to save workload as well. And, we've done that through the AI assistant, Isla, that you can see here. And we have teachers telling us that, they save 3-4 hours a week on average by using the content, by using Isla, but also their well-being improves as a result. And hopefully that's a really important factor in all of this. I don't know if you folks were teachers. I was a teacher. Workload's really high, and retention of those in the workforce is really important. So all of those factors helping them to reduce the workload, helping them to have a better impact in the classroom or the best impact that they can have, and basically making it a better job, their well-being improving for them. Giving them their Sunday nights back is what we actually often say. It's like,
Which is massive, isn't it? Like Joe, there's people often, Joe, we won't get too political living in droves in terms of education and all those kind of things, but actually it's not about always the challenges within the organisation. It's actually the add-ons and the expectation beyond that, and the Sunday that they're having Sunday dinner or whatever they're having for tea, and then they have to learn leave a family dynamic, and then their working week then starts again on Sunday evening.
Yeah, exactly. And you know, we talked about that lots when we talked about that when we launched Isla, about, you know, how do we just make sure we can give teachers their Sunday nights back, really improve impact, you know, give them their time back with their own kids, basically.
Yeah, and is that one of your, obviously your role must be multifaceted, must be spinning plates and lots of different things as CEO, but whether yourself or personally at Oak, what kind of thing is the thing that you most enjoy about the work that you're doing?
I mean, I think the thing that the great gift that we have at Oak is bringing together really great, high quality educators, and subject experts, subject leads. We've got one of those across all of the different subjects of the curriculum, with also really great software engineers, machine learning and AI engineers as well. And then we've obviously got a great ops team and everything to support that. Bringing those together, particularly as, you know, post-pandemic, Oak has evolved and had to sort of adjust as well alongside all of the AI world that's come in since, you know, obviously that's been going on for a long time, but it's really only hit public presence in 2022 or something around then when ChatGPT. We've had to adjust around all of that, and the team has been brilliant at really supporting that adjustment and like thinking about how do we build the content, the infrastructure of what we're doing, and how do we support schools and classrooms as we go through that change. And as schools and pupils who are already using AI to some extent, how do we help them to use that safely in high quality ways? And how do we make sure that, you know, we retain that kind of fidelity of the curriculum, which is really important. You know, we want teachers and schools and pupils to have that like shared experience of learning. And like, how do we help them to do that when AI is being used and it's personalizing lots of things, and, you know, you can access loads of knowledge and do really great, interesting things. But we want to make sure that their school experience remains like a really great shared learning experience that's high quality, and that we can help those schools deliver a world-class curriculum. And that, like, the team really thinks deeply about how to do that and how to retain really great curriculum and pedagogical principles in all the things that.
And in your work at Oak, and obviously previously the work as a whole, as an entity, what do you see is the core principles or some of the things of a well-run school or an organisation in education?
I mean, I think it's great leadership, great teachers, great curriculum. I think it's quite simple.
Okay, we love that. Quick fire. So obviously building on that, Oak as a part will hopefully have a part to play. But what do you see the future of education from your side beyond what we're currently doing?
Yeah, I mean, looking at it through the lens of Oak, and, you know, and particularly through the lens of AI as well, and the curriculum assessment review, you know, that's something that's just been launched, or rather just been announced by the government. The review was published late last year. That's now being implemented. Or, you know, the department is designing what that national curriculum looks like, and the new drafters. It's then going to be our job to implement that into, and the changes and the evolution of that curriculum into our resources, into our sequences, into all of the things that we're doing. Like, the intent there for us is to do that in a really open way, so that the data, the content, the curriculum resources are available digitally in the ways that AI needs to use them. We can talk about, you know, knowledge graphs and all the technical bits of that, in ways that can be used to really support great context around all of that for schools and teachers. Because I think, you know, to sort of expand out from Oak, as AI is going to be used more and more across the world in lots of different contexts, it really is important that context remains like the core part. You know, it understands the school, where you are, whether you're in Lancashire, whether in Yorkshire, whether you're in, you know, somewhere else in the world that has its own curricula and context. It's going to be really important to make sure that everything's tailored to the context that those pupils are at. And, you know, at the moment, we've got amazing AI tools, LLMs, we've got all sorts of products that are out there. And the next step in all of that is, like, what is the infrastructure needed to really make sure that they can work in a really high quality, safe way for the pupils, teachers, and schools that are using them.
Perfect. One final question. We always do a quick fire, so I'm going to ask you one question. Let's make it as quick as we can. So, a 10-year-old asks you why they have to go to school. What would you say?
I mean, you know, look, I really enjoyed school, right? And I think But yeah, I think what you go to school to learn, the shared experience, the social experiences, but also the knowledge and skills and the things that teachers really want to be delivering the best for their pupils that they're working with. And at the end of that school experience, I think we all look back. Most people look back fondly on the shared experiences that they had with their classmates, with their friends, and the things that they learn. And I think setting yourself up for the best start in life is an absolutely really important thing, and enjoying those shared experiences and really just thinking inquisitively about the world around you and like where that's going to take you in future. I came out of school and definitely didn't expect to be here. I had a completely different, career plan, and you don't know where things are going to take you, but it's really important that you've give yourself the best foundations and the best start in life and really think deeply about how to do that and learn with inquisitively and actually get the best out of the teachers that really want the best out of you.
Perfect.
Well, hello. Welcome to the Edufuturists podcast. Could you tell us a little bit about you, who you are, and your role at this little organisation that people might have seen at the Bett Show?
Sure. My name is Taryn Sullivan, and I'm a product manager on the Google Classroom team here at the Google for Education booth at Bett.
Amazing. Well, we spoke with the team from Google last year at Bett, and so we're really excited we're going to have a walkthrough, and as part of the conversation, if you're just listening to this, you might want to flick over and watch the video of it, because we're going to do some demos and show what's going on in the world of Google for Education, right? So at Bett, what you doing here at Bett? What are you talking about? What's the focus, right?
I think the key is, we're working towards transforming education for the better using AI. And so we've been very busy at work this year. Lots of great announcements of new features inside of Google Classroom, inside of Gemini and Notebook LM that really are helping teachers save time, trying to deepen the learning journey overall and make things more personal.
And we were having a chat prior to coming on air, and we were talking about this idea of learn your way and giving the freedom and the choice and the agency that sits in that, but also doing that in a safe way, right? So a lot of the message from Google is about, we want to empower teachers and we want to empower learners to learn their way, but teachers to teach their way using the tools within the ecosystem they're in. So that kind of messaging is coming out in what's coming out at the moment. Is that right?
Yeah, absolutely. I think the key is ensuring that the content that gets generated or transformed is grounded on the highest quality material that educators already have and they love. And to just ensure that whole journey is cohesive with the curriculum, what's already been deemed by education leaders as effective and proven that way. So you'll see a lot more of the ability to input things from different formats, right? To make sure a host of different quality content can be used, and then output in a way that is the way that maybe a particular student really wants to hear it. So an audio overview instead of a slide deck might be better for some students. And so just enabling those more personal journeys to deepen that learning.
For many of our listeners or watchers, wherever you are, they'll have been familiar with Google have always been at the front of the curve when it comes to innovation in education. So you're working on that Google Classroom space.
Yeah.
Okay. So I'm going to ask you a little sideline question before we come back to the Google Classroom conversation, which is, you seem really passionate. Like, as soon as we've come over, you're passionate about products, but you're more passionate about how this can make a difference in education. What is it that drives that passion into doing what you do?
So for me, I might be a little different than some of my ed tech counterparts in that I didn't have a really transformational educational experience. I had a great education overall, but nothing would stand out. Like a lot of my colleagues that I talked to, they had an amazing teacher who really engaged them, or they had, got a scholarship to an incredible school, or maybe, they had parents who sacrificed everything to give them this very unique experience. But most of my love for learning was sparked when I got out in the workforce and started doing.
Yeah.
And then kind of realized, wow, learning by doing is what sparks my curiosity and creativity and my desire to go further. And so what I'm most excited about with this new technology is that it could really scale the ability to help students let their own curiosity and creativity get sparked and go as deep as they want, rather than just being spoon-fed what, one size fits all type model.
So part of this is tied into the Google ecosystem has got so many facets, but fundamentally, it's about making things work together. Okay, so if you're in Docs, it naturally works in Classroom. You open Classroom, you can open up practice sets, and then you can use YouTube, and it's in a safe space, but it's things working cohesively. A lot of the messaging that we're hearing in the conversations with people at Bett and of the 10 years of the podcast that we've been doing have been talking about how these cohesive systems that work together, that are integrated. That's intentional. I know Google are intentional about that, right? So the question we've been asking a lot of people about is tied to that, is about well-run schools. So well-run schools or colleges or educational organizations, about leadership, some of that is about, but what do you think, or what from a Google perspective, what does a well-run school look like?
Oh, that's a great question. I've never run a school, so, but I have, so, I wouldn't say I know that much, but I will say that from working closely with our customers and watching, and listening to them, the kind of key pieces that I see is that students are much more capable than we all think. And so, schools that have built a culture where students can get in the driver's seat, where the teacher doesn't have to have every answer buttoned up and perfect, those are the ones that we see succeeding. They're providing students with a lot of agency, understanding their learning, letting them, again, get in the driver's seat and figure out what's next. So I think there's that piece. On the tech side, it's interesting because one of the number one complaints we hear is how much time people waste switching between the hundreds of apps and things there are. And we've really tried to make, even just from the basic single sign-on technology, it easy and seamless. We still have a long way to go as an overall ed tech ecosystem. But I think when you look at Google Classroom and things that like add-ons and ways to just integrate directly into the home base where they're at has been a goal that we're trying to achieve based on what folks have asked. So I think when you see schools that are deliberately finding solutions that work together, it takes that burden off of the educators and the students. And that it's not tech for tech's sake, and the tech doesn't get in the way. It's more truly about educating.
Yeah, and it's no secret to many of our listeners that me and Steve we're pro Google. We've been Google users. We love lots of other things as well, but when we get to have a conversation with Googlers who are at the cutting edge of this, I know you can't show things that are not on the roadmap conversation or that are not out. But one of the things that we're really interested in finding out conversations around is views around the future of education, because where we are is very different than where we were. So the fact that and we're going to see some of this in Notebook LM about creating that, like you said, audio overview or a slide deck or an infographic or a data table or an interactive audio overview where you can have that conversation, learn your way. But then also Google Vids, the AI, the Gemini pieces in there. What that looks like now in comparison to even 12 months ago, 2 years ago, 12 years ago is incredible. So what does the future hold? What might it hold?
Yeah. I think we can look to the past to see where the future will, where we'll head. Okay. And if you look at the best teachers out there, they know how to engage students, how to spark that curiosity, how to get them asking the right questions. And they've spent countless weekends and evenings building out unique, exciting, interesting ways for their students to learn in unique ways. And they will build them in cohorts, and they have this group doing that and this group doing that, and they understand how their students learn best, right? And so if you think about the time it takes to do that, if you can fast forward and say, now I think we can scale that type of experience, and these teachers can focus. Imagine all that energy they put into just building 5 different slide decks into their actual teaching, right? Yeah. Even those superpowered teachers will be a step above that. So I just think we're going to see a much more personal type of learning, and more access for more students to get that, rather than just the few that have those dynamite teachers.
Yeah, and sometimes that can be an equity issue around if you can afford it, or if you've got the right technology, or you've got the right Wi-Fi, you've got the right teacher,
or the right class size. I mean, right? Like that sometimes is the difference. It's not that the teacher doesn't want to; it's just that they can't. And so now it's possible.
And this is the personalization piece can obviously be a buzz phrase in education. We want to do personalized education, but genuinely, there's an opportunity to do this, which is as somebody who thrived in education, probably not because of school, but despite it. And I don't mean that, like, I had a wonderful schooling, brilliant, amazing teachers.
Everybody got along.
Yeah. And also, like, I was a teacher. So I tried really hard to make that, but it's so difficult. If a kid's into basketball, if a kid's into skateboarding, if a kid's into coding, how do you do it all? Well, in order to be able to utilize the AI in that space, it can help in that. So in terms of like a message from what's the one thing that we could maybe hope for, not necessarily today, tomorrow, what's coming, but what change in education? Because it's not about saying it's broken. It's not about saying we're going to throw the baby out with the bath. Nobody's saying that, but change is something that we should kind of embrace if we want progress. A phrase we use on the podcast quite a lot. It's not ours. So we've nicked it from somewhere. Everybody wants change, but nobody wants to change. So the conversation really is what might change? What would you hope for? What might be opportunities for change?
I think building a culture of exploration is the most important thing we can do in the education space. So I think that I do think there are many places throughout the world where that's very native to who they are. And there's others where that isn't necessarily what is supported. And so I think the more that concept can get out there and that educators feel empowered to explore, students do, you're going to see things transform in ways we can't even predict. Just like we didn't know what was going to happen to a library when Google search came out. We didn't know what was going to happen, in math class once we had TIA 89s, right? Like, all those things are going to evolve. We have really brilliant people and we have to trust in that human intelligence because that is the root of who we are at the end of the day. And those teachers cannot be replaced. We need them there and we need the connections that they make with students. And so we just want to save their time, help them drive towards better outcomes for students so they can go do these creative things like you're doing today.
Amazing. So we're going to ask one last question before you show us a little bit of a demo of what's going on in the world of Google. And the exciting things for those people who haven't seen that yet. So it's one of our quick fire questions, but you don't have to be quick. You've got permission to take as long as you want on this one. So if a 10-year-old asked you why they have to go to school, what would you actually say?
So my daughter's almost 10 and she has asked me this. When she was younger, I told her, well, your job is to go to school and my job is to go work at Google. What I empower my kids to do is just to be curious and I tell them it is their job to go to school and their job is to go figure out what problem in the world they want to solve.
Nice. And so school helps them solve that problem.
Yeah, identify all the different problems out there so they can go figure out what they're passionate about solving.
Amazing. Well, the interview's been amazing, Taryn, and we're really excited to have a look at what this is. So if you only listen to this as a podcast, flick over onto YouTube and you'll be able to see as Taryn walks us through some of the cool things that are happening in the life of Google for Education. Thank you for joining us, and we'll look forward to seeing what you're going to do. So we're going to be looking in, remember, go and have a look. If you are not already watching this, come and have a look at what we're doing. And you can see, as we are going through this, that we are, where are we going to start, Taryn?
All right, we're going to go ahead and start in Google Classroom, and we have a Gemini tab in Classroom with a lot of very helpful resources, ways to get started using Gemini. There's an experience for educators, and we also are launching an experience for students, which is great, starting with over 18. But here we have some new features. Some have already seen this. This page has been around for a bit, but what's new is this audio lesson, which is really exciting. Again, I mentioned earlier the ability to not only create differentiated types of lessons, but now to ground it on your content. So you're able to add some content that you might already have. You could paste in here a lesson plan, some stuff from slides, just any information that would help it be grounded. And then you can add your target grade. So let's say this is 9th grade, and we are going to do mitosis. So we can it generates the learning objective. So all of this is powered by our LearnLM models, which are pedagogically developed to support learning and really make sure that we're not just giving kind of the first thing you might see at a high level, but it's really going deep. So again, this could be grounded on actual content I have, but if I want to generate it from scratch, I'm able to confirm that the learning objectives align with what I'm trying to teach. And then from there, I can personalize it even more. So I can add a teacher avatar to it. So that one kind of looks like me. So we'll do that one, even wearing blue. So that's good. And anyways, it does talk about the different voices as well. So I can choose different voices, something that feels more custom to me. You can play and test it out. And then we'll generate our audio lesson. So it may be something that you want to give students after the lesson. So maybe they saw the lecture, but now, they want this to just help reinforce it. It may be that the student's better off just truly, listening to this on their own instead of your lecture. It may depend. It'd be support material or core learning content.
And this is grade 9 level. So like, because you've given it a grade level, it's not just talking about mitosis and its degree level.
Right. It's not going to give you a PhD's explanation of it, right? It's going to break it down and make it simple for 9th grade. And so you can kind of go through and see what's being built here. So I can see the script as it's being generated, and then we'll be able to listen to the audio.
Okay, so multimodal. It's this idea where learners are and what they need to learn from and how they learn. We can create that. And it's just an option, isn't it? It's a choice. It's about autonomy and choice, agency.
Yes, agency. And it is feedback directly that we got from educators is that, the means in which they have time to prepare a lesson isn't always the means in which it's best for their students to receive it. And so we're just trying to help them scale and save that time again. And then you can export it so that they, are able to save it somewhere else and share it with their students. So here's, So for
those people who can't see, there's a 7.5-minute audio lesson that then can be exported into slides or into Drive and then put into Classroom, because obviously we're already in Classroom. Now it's there as a resource for learners.
Yeah, and what's neat even in how they did this, again, I talked earlier about sparking that curiosity in students. It's a conversation between a student and a teacher. So they're exploring the concept as though you would as a student. And so it kind of, again, it makes it feel more natural than just two experts talking about mitosis and sort of faking they don't know what they're talking about to prod the other. It really is trying to look at what would a student really ask a teacher in this context and what would this sound like? So it's very exciting.
Awesome.
We have many other tools inside of Classroom that have been that have been added. I would say there's a lot of these really nice starter prompts. So another key thing we hear from educators is they really want help learning how to effectively use AI. And so the scaffolded approach lets them grab something to start with. So they want to brainstorm a field trip. It'll take some content, open up Gemini with a starter prompt that we have already validated that is going to give them good results. And it's going to take them through a back and forth to help them plan their field trip. So, the first thing they're going to ask you is your goal. So what is your goal for this field trip? And maybe it's just to interest my students in friction for physical science, 4th grade, right? So I might just share, I want something that's going to help them kind of get real, get practical, get doing something with that. What city or town are we in? Okay, I'm in South Orange, New Jersey.
It looks past the spelling mistakes. It's great because my fat fingers don't go any, but you've got lovely fingers.
What's funny is I'm on a different keyboard right now.
Okay.
So it's a different layout. So yeah, it's funny to see.
So is this home, by the way?
South Orange, New Jersey. That's where I live. Right. So, so they're just it's trying to look for what might be,
and for those people listening, what's really exciting is that it's not doing it all for you. The teacher is still in the loop. It's the human intelligence piece that you're going into, and it's asking you questions then to get what we need.
This roller skating rink as an example, like a way to, you could explain that. You could take the kids roller skating. They'd have fun. They'd be doing something. They'd be learning how it works. So I'm just saying that I would love this roller skating option, right? And then it's going to go help me find where this might be, how far they might be, from my area. So that's kind of fun. Also looking at STEM programs, exploring also different program options that I might have. So yeah, here it is coming up with, and that's the roller skating park that's close to my house. Very cool.
So then it started to ask. So what's cool is it doesn't take the agency away from the teacher either. There's still the idea that this is the teacher makes a decision.
Yes.
I'm working with it. Yeah.
Right, but it's a much more efficient way. It's much more natural to just have a conversation with an expert that can help do all this research for you, right? So, Yeah, so that's a fun way to do it. So again, inside of Classroom, we wanted to make sure that very useful time savers were here. But you can see, in order to get a high quality back and forth experience, there's some work that goes into building that prompt, and we know that it's going to take time for people to build up that expertise. It's why gems exist. You could build a gem that is all around field trips, right? And then share that with educators. So there's these different tools we know will help people scale themselves, but also scale those around them. And it being right in Classroom just helps it be embedded right into their workflow.
Yeah, so you're not having to go into a Gemini app or this and that, the other, upload, download. You're in where you would normally be. So keeping that, even though we're talking about friction, we're actually reducing the friction for educators in that space and then students eventually as well.
So the other cool thing I'll show you is, so even this did pop us out to Gemini, but now there is a new extension in Gemini that can pull you back into Classroom. So, and you know what? Shoot, this demo account doesn't have it.
It will have.
It will, yes. But we can get you some demo reel of that because it has a way to basically say, hey, okay, make a flyer for this field trip and then post it back to my Classroom.
So good. That's super cool. That is super cool.
So we want to create that. Again, everything should be connected and flowing back into each other. You shouldn't come to a dead end. And I'll also show how some of the other great, so some of the things like generating a quiz. Now, when you generate the quiz at the end, it asks you if you want to assign it to a class. So you can just assign it to a class right here. You don't have to pop out to drive, then go create your assignment inside the class and then attach it.
Cool.
Yeah. So that's some new stuff within Classroom. Why don't we pop over to Gemini and we can just look at some of exciting. Gemini 3 is out. Our best model yet. It's very exciting to see how people are using it. We have, I would say, some of the most fun things are the infographics we're seeing educators build. So let's build. What was your favorite subject in school?
I was a religious studies teacher, so that's so maybe. Oh well, I tell you, it's not my favorite subject. Let's pick
Okay.
the 5 Ks of Sikhism. There we go. 5 Ks of Sikhism.
My best friend in college was Sikh, so let's see if I know any of these.
And what's really interesting there is that's quite niche.
Yeah.
It's quite niche. And let's see what it does. And so for those people who are seeing it spinning, creating, and it says it's loading Nano Banana Pro, which is a great name for a product, by the way. Whoever came up with that one, that's a great name for a
Very
product.
googly, right?
Very googly. Very googly. And
we take our work seriously, but not ourselves. So I think that's really important.
that's cool. That's cool. Just as this is working, some people have question marks around safety, security. Can you just maybe give us a little bit of an insight? Because I know that all these products are built with that in mind. So maybe talk to us, if you could, about that. Well, it's building something, but we can look at that in a minute, right?
Absolutely. So that's at the core of everything we do, especially within Workspace for Education specifically. Being an institutional offering, we ensure that everything that is a core service comes with that same level of security, privacy, data portability, all of the things that are required for any enterprise-grade solution. And that is what sort of stands apart from how we build things. Fundamentally, that's why sometimes, when we come out with things, it may be a little bit after others, but it's because we're ensuring that it meets those compliance standards. It's what enterprises really need, right? And schools, institutions are enterprises. They need those same things. And so we recognize that, and we do that alongside enterprise needs that we have across other industries. But education is really unique and has special ones given the child data that's involved. And so we want to make sure no student data is ever used to train models. It's not, used in any other method. We can't look at it. It's very, very secure. I can tell you internally, I was very impressed and excited to see how seriously it's taken. But I think that's been validated by our customers over and over again in some of the most strict areas in the regions in the world. Yeah. They're turning to Google first. And
tied to that as well is that ability to turn it on and off depending on students' level. So you can, in the admin console, be able to turn it on for organizational unit or by age. It's thought through. It's not just a secondary thing.
It is, but I will say that there are things that we learn from customers every day. And so we also just encourage customers to bring those concerns to us because there are there are nuances in what you can and can't turn off and how it works. And while we definitely design it and try to make it meet those needs, you're not going to get 100% right. And so we always want to hear from customers, and we just want to make it better because that flexibility is so important.
Let's see this 5Ks of Sikhism infographic, shall we?
Let's see how we did here.
So as an RE teacher, I'll be able to tell you whether this is absolutely bang on. All 5 are absolutely bang on.
Yeah.
The writing around it is absolutely right as well. And it's quite, like I said, this is quite niche. So to get that right is...
It is and it isn't.
Well, no. I mean, by niche, I mean, like I understand it, but not everybody knows that, right? That's what I was meaning, yeah. So then, also, you've got relevant images, explanation.
And it's linked to sources, which I love.
Yeah.
So it's really going to show you where it's coming from and why. So infographics is another big one. And then being able to, again, you can also add content if you want to ground that too. So if you had something that you really loved, a book you really loved, it would be ideal to have that in there and let it generate the graphic from, some of the content you've already built. All right. Let's also look at, I'm just going to start a new chat here. And we have, we're launching SAT test prep today. And we're starting with SAT as a standardized test to help students with that. But then we are going to be expanding that into other tests and making it more generalizable. So let's just see what happens when I ask for it to help me study for the SAT.
Okay, this is interesting.
So I did choose the pro thinking model, so you can actually see what it's doing, which is nice, deciding on a study strategy. I think what we've learned, it does help students understand kind of what goes into it, even just by seeing those things pop up, which is so fascinating.
And there's a pause, and that's interestingly the work that we do, helping students to think rather than just to take it, copy and paste style. This is really cool. It's not thinking because it's thinking a human thing, but we won't get into that today philosophically. But the question is it shown a process, isn't it?
Yeah. I'm going to say let's do a practice test.
So it's given some options, and we're going into let's do a practice test. So you can actually change the model or the level that it's doing it. Yeah,
you can. But you can see, okay, so what's neat is this has triggered an interactive experience right here in the canvas where it's generated a UI for me to be able to start this practice test. So this is the unique experience beyond just, sure, Jon and I before could ask you a question, you could answer it. You could ask a question, you could answer it. But now it's in this neat canvas that will take me through these questions. It's going to have the aspects that are related to SAT, right? So I may want to show hints. I want to set a time, a time limit for it, the things that are integral to making sure you practice this effectively. So as we go through that experience, we can go, we won't do all of these now, but let's say it's interactive here and I can read these and answer these questions. It's going to take me through the practice test.
Yeah. No, that's cool. Just talk amongst yourselves if you're trying to work out where we're going. We've got 31 minutes, so we're joking. We're not going to be doing 31 minutes.
What's cool, though, is you can see there's visuals that get popped up in here. It's not just, word problems, although this is there's tables.
Comprehension, but there's also...
truly is reflecting what you'd see for the SAT and any type of prep course.
So this is cool. So for those people who are maybe just seeing what's happening, is there's questions that are coming up, but it's different types of questions based on prep for the SAT. And then we're almost there. And Taryn's going to get 27 out of 27, I reckon.
Ready to submit it. Okay.
Oh, yeah. Okay, let's submit.
Truth.
Okay, so, now we're going to...
Oh, it's going to take me through a full one. Okay, I'm just going to skip this for now so we can see. Okay, I got 7 of my 27 correct.
Well done.
Right?
Well done.
But it breaks it down into these different areas. So if I want to go deeper and practice, I think I had a record time there.
Yeah, well done.
But I can go into these areas, look back at my question. I can see what the correct answer was.
Yeah.
I can get it to explain the answer. So this is going, it's an interactive version of a lot of those practice tests that you see out there.
Yep.
And it's auto-graded for you. It's summarizing your progress. So it gives a way to really help you dive deeper and do that prep. It's a great companion for in-person tutoring.
Companion, right? Important. Not replacement, companion.
Oh, yeah. I mean, nothing beats sort of the expertise and the things that a tutor can share that is individual from watching you even. And so this is a great companion to that.
Amazing.
So the do you want to jump over to Notebook LM and we can look at a few?
Yeah, let's have a look at Notebook LM, because just while you open up Notebook LM, many of our listeners, and you won't be surprised, I love Notebook LM because of being able to that multimodal, but also being able to sandbox the choice of as a professional. So I've got these resources that I've used for years and years and years, some that are really good, some that are really bad. But the truth is that I've quality assured them. And so what Notebook LM allows me to do, and we know, so in that space, is allows you to determine the source material, then have the AI, and then have the multimodal. That's why. So I'm excited to see where this is going and what you've been doing recently on this.
So let's go into, this is a primary science
Get.
so there's some material in here already. So this is a notebook that we've created. We've pulled some information. You can have deep research go in and do research and add it in here. But if you have some materials that you love, a video that we love using, a lesson plan, all of these pieces. Some of this is actually too the actual national curriculum.
Yeah.
So it's also telling you not just what to teach, but in some ways how to teach these things. And so it's going to use that guidance as it's developing things. So now I have this, right? It's basically becoming my assistant, and I can go, all right, so generate, make something for me, explain to me the best way to teach this or engage them. But it also has these great studio outputs. So you see the video overview. So you see the video overview is our newest one here. We also have data tables and slide decks now. So there's a way to just generate a video given all of this. So again, this, let's see what's already been. So this would be for teachers, how to teach primary science. So for me as a teacher, I'm putting all this material in. Yes, it can generate material for the students, but it can also generate information for myself, for other teachers, for my TA. And it's actually a pretty sweet video that kind of walks you through the best way to spark curiosity.
Wow.
Look at that. Okay.
We've set this one up.
It's funny, and I didn't. And let's just see, there's some patterns, right? So they're going to have ways to share the different concepts that are in here with great visuals, making it, again, feel very interactive and more digestible.
This is cool. And for many people, if you've not seen this, and we might not be able to showcase it here, but the ability to do the interactive mode in audio overviews, which is relatively new. But if you haven't seen it, that's game changing, because it means it's not just an audio thing that's static. It's now we can have a conversation, and we're not being fanboys here. We are actually, this is changing personalization that we've been talking about.
Yeah, I mean that also goes deeper at the point, and we can talk about it too within anywhere where you can have a conversation, right? So listening to someone else have a conversation is a great step forward. Being able to interrupt it and ask it questions, right? Again, back to you get students asking questions and getting curious. That and knowing how to answer questions in a way that sparks that curiosity. If you've ever had a kid or taught, you can answer questions in two ways. You can shut down the question and basically there are no more questions, or you can answer in a way that really promotes their thinking and gets them wondering more. And I think that when it's built on LearnLM, all of this coming through there is what has sparked this deeper curiosity.
Love this.
Yeah, through the tools. So we also have a quiz that it's generated. Again, this is an interactive quiz. You could do it right in Notebook LM from your materials. So, you can also assign a notebook to students through Classroom. So you could take a bunch of resources and a bunch of material and say, I'm going to generate a quiz and an audio overview and a video, and then let them go in and get those answers in real time and get feedback, right? So this is great. In real time, they know if it's correct or not. And you
Not waiting for a teacher to mark this, give the feedback, and they've lost the learning anywhere. It's that immediacy of feedback.
and I can't tell you how much teachers have told us that immediate feedback saves them so much time, not necessarily for the students that are struggling, but the ones that are soaring always want to check and see if it's right. So they'll raise their hand.
Yeah.
They have to spend time checking with them. And it's like, you're good, move on, right? And this just gives them, and then it frees them up to spend time with students that really need their support. So the quizzing is really great, and how interactive it is as well. The slide decks is a real game changer, I think, too, because a lot of educators, again, they know the material, they'll have some primary source material, but students They don't have a visual in front of them. Often they are off wandering around with their eyes. And so just giving them something to anchor on is really critical. And, so whether it's on, let's see, I think this created, again, this is using the principles around this on how to teach. So this would be more maybe for a PD or something, but some of these infographics are fantastic.
Yeah, that's cool. So it's created slides. So the slide presentation, we're getting into that space, right?
Yes, which again, you can do inside of slides as well.
Yep.
Right? We want to make sure that these tools are basically available anywhere you are.
Yeah.
So if you want it fully grounded on your content, your high quality content, you want to curate it in a certain way. Maybe sometimes you don't want it to refer to certain pieces of your material and you want to come back to this over and over. Notebook is this fantastic place where you can do that on an ongoing basis, build off of what you did last year, keep iterating, freshen the content, and then you might have slides where when you're in slides and excited to build something new, you can use something right in there.
Yeah. So a very wise person once said, we create a martini model of learning, any place, anytime, anywhere. That was Steve Hawke, for those people who don't know.
A martini model?
So there was a martini advert that talked about anytime, any place, anywhere. And actually, I know we're joking about it, but actually what we're saying is that education, wherever you need to learn, however you need to learn, make it the easiest place to do that. Well, it's been absolutely incredible. Like, I know this is a start, it's a start, but it's so much further on than where we've been. And we're really grateful that you've given us this time to do this extended demo and talk to us. But thank you so much for what you're doing in this space. Keep doing what you're doing. And if anybody wants to give you any suggestions, feedback, you mentioned that, didn't you? There's a question mark tool in the bottom of everything where people can send feedback, right?
Okay, there's feedback right here. You can go and
Send feedback. Yeah.
ask for help. Please send it. We read every single piece of feedback that is sent through this tool.
Okay.
So let's dive right in. Okay. Tell us who you are for those people that don't know, what you do, your responsibility in your organization.
Okay, my name is Mark Hadley. I'm the co-founder and CEO of Blackout Education. It says Blackout Technologies, that's the holding company. And our education arm is trying to do good things and turning smartphones into bricks during the school day.
Okay, right. Well, not to lob at each other, but we understand the sentiment and obviously the impact, and that's a real hot topic. I know, obviously, it's really, really busy. I've heard that you spoke earlier today. Tell us a little bit about that. What was the reason why in this impact statement that you're talking about?
Yeah, so I spoke on the innovation stage. We're a partner of One, so we're in the One marketplace right now. And we did a 5,000 student impact assessment and over 2025. And we had some amazing takeaways from what the boys and the girls find different about having their smartphones blocked during the school day. So the big thing for us was the boys just miss gaming, and the girls really are relieved that there's no camera function on their phones during that school day. So pictures aren't taken of them unnecessarily. So that was the big takeaway. And then the notifications. So they're getting no notifications during the school day. 90 to 120 notifications is the average. And we dropped that to about 7 to 10. So it's a data dam essentially during the school day where we give that relaxed environment.
It's that flexibility. It's not just about because there's no locker in life. We get that. But at the same point, it's about that moderation and the management and the demonstration of, ultimately, for adults, we've really struggled when the social media world, like I struggle in terms of notification, it's an and it is so distracting and will literally take you into places for such a long period of time before you realise, how do we support learners to take those steps into real self-control management without just saying, no, there's no technology whatsoever. Your product allows those steps into that change and that cultural habitual change.
Great question. So for us, and one of the sound bites there I heard was, and the feedback we got from the surveys with parents, students, and teachers was kids are getting bombarded by their parents during the school day. So mum sending a video of them at the gym or a picture of their latte at the cafe. So kids are getting relief that their mums and dads aren't messaging them during the school day as well because they're addicted, right? That was a very interesting takeaway. So yeah, look, we're just trying to create that cocooned environment where kids can stay focused, they can engage with one another, they're making eye contact, they've got body language, all the stuff they're missing through just messaging each other the entire day.
And I can't wait for step 2 where actually we get the pouches and the blackout for parents and show them the modification and the distractions and actually how the culture that they need to change society to actually impact the young people in their development.
That's right. And it's just running through society, and it doesn't discriminate between age, wealth, religion, race. This is a problem, a global problem for everybody, and we're trying to do something about it. And just to add to that, we actually match fund for the state schools and MATs who can't really afford a technology like ours. So we have philanthropists and foundations supporting this cause, and Blackout does a 1-for-1 match funding for every license that's bought by those organizations.
Absolutely wonderful. Absolutely wonderful. So we're here for another interview. It has been a crazy, mad first day, but we're enjoying it. So do you want to introduce yourself? You can do a better job of it than I can. Yourself, your role, and I suppose why you're here.
Okay, so I'm Simon, co-founder of Pobble, former primary school teacher, deputy head. I'm here wearing a few hats, actually, and we're here exhibiting on the One Discover stand. I've also been hosting in the innovation arena, which is a first for me, which has been quite nerve-wracking, but really enjoyable, actually, to see the other side of Bett. And probably really importantly, to connect with friends, connect with colleagues, connect with companies I've worked with in the past.
So just, we don't do product sales, you know, and everything else, but ultimately just walk us through Pobble, like, you know, like its growth and how old is it and everything else in terms of its journey.
Yeah, so Pobble started in my classroom about 14 years ago. So I was looking for a way of inspiring my children to write. I actually came along to Bett back in the day that it was in Olympia, had a little look around, couldn't find anything that was quite right, went back to my classroom, and that was the start of my EdTech journey. So, yeah, that was sort of brought me here.
Yeah, and I think that's wonderful. You don't need to tell us about all the products and everything else.
Okay.
But what's wonderful is it's a product that is about a solution.
Yeah.
What is the problem?
Yeah.
What is the challenge? And a solution-focused tackle that you
Absolutely.
created as an educator. I'm not going to criticize any Bett or anybody, but there are still. We've probably been here for 4 years now, where actually it's technology that's trying to find a problem to solve, I guess, and all of those kinds of things. So it's nice to see it from the other side of how you develop something to respond to something.
Absolutely. And then, you know, when you come to Bett, things change. You know, when I first started coming to Bett with a writing platform, AI didn't exist. And I've walked around today and there's a lot of AI products, a lot mentioning writing. Is that any better than what we're doing? Is it different? So that's always fascinating with coming to Bett. I think what's been really core to us is very much founded by teachers, and that really resonates again when you're here today. You can almost go around and find the teacher founders, and they speak from the child and the problem and the pain rather than perhaps talking about the solution first.
Yeah. So obviously as co-founder, time that you spent at different Bett and everything else, what's most exciting you in either your role, your work, or what you've seen at the moment?
So we're a very small organisation. So I think what I first of all love coming to Bett for is just to connect with other people. I think if, you know, when you've worked in a very busy school with teachers and children, to suddenly work in a small organisation of 5. So I come to Bett a lot for the connectivity. You say exciting, I think it's quite scary walking around Bett sometimes. I've got 2 young children now. I've got a 7-year-old and a 10-year-old, and trying to imagine what, you know, their education is going to look like in the next 10 years, what their working life is going to look like. It's sort of fascinating in a way. The flip side of that is there's so much opportunity, you know, the things that they can access through technology, things like the VR, you know, going to places they might not go in real life. So it's a wonderful opportunity, but I also see, you know, I guess occasionally get a little bit worried about it as well, a little bit scared.
Everybody can say, what is your predictions for the future of education and everything else? Let's not maybe put that much pressure on it. Because as a parent, as a founder, as a ex-teacher, will probably still has education at their heart.
Yeah.
What is your hope for the future of education?
So I hope that they still learn some of those soft skills alongside, you know, my little girl's got, you know, giving a bit of context, my little girl's got Downs. She obviously has got a lot of challenges with learning. She's at mainstream school. Technology's lended her opportunities that I think 10, 15 years ago, children with Down syndrome wouldn't have had, you know, tools like widget, symbolization, voice recognition tools that I think will ultimately mean she has a really successful path in education that perhaps, for example, children with Down syndrome wouldn't have had in the past. So I think that inclusiveness, accessibility, you know, got tools like Everway, you know, the fact that there's a real understanding of lots of different learners, I think is really, really important. I think that's really important for the future of education as well.
Absolutely love that. And we always do a bit of a quick fire.
Okay.
You can go with quick fire, but if a 10-year-old asked you, and you've got children,
I've got children.
did you say 10-year-old?
10-year-old and a
Okay.
7-year-old, yeah.
So your children ask you why they have to go to school. What would you actually say? They might do.
Friends. I always say, like, communication, friends, building relationships, the things they can't necessarily do online. Well, that's my big thing with going to school and having fun. Like, big believer as a teacher that children should go to school and enjoy it. But building relationships, communication, that wasn't very quick fire. Sorry.
No, absolutely perfect. Nailed on. Loved it. Thank you. Really appreciate the time today. Thank you.
So we're here again at Bett. This is day number 2, and we are back with our good friend, but also in a new role. Tell us who you are and what you're doing.
So I'm Jon, and my role is Growth Director UK and Ireland for Kahoot. We're really excited to be at Bett. We're now on day 2. Day 1 was spectacular, and super excited as we go into day 2 and day 3.
Well, we're on the stand, and the stand is mahoosive. Kahoot, oh, no, I can't do that. There's no dad jokes I can make around that. But obviously, you're new into role at Kahoot. Many of our community will know you, and you've been in this space supporting in schools and know lots of people in this space. But what's the message at Kahoot? What's Bett 2026 for Kahoot?
So first of all, really glad that you said that, because I think much like yourself, I'm really, really proud to be former teacher and school leader. And that's something that I always carry with me. A real kind of, I think when you've been in the classroom, you've been in those situations, it really helps make these conversations that we're having and privileged to have with colleagues from all over the UK and Ireland and across the world, have that little bit more empathy and trying to understand exactly where they're coming from. And that's exactly what we are trying to do this Bett. So lots of people, we have 9 million teachers across the world that are using Kahoot, over 250,000 in the UK. And what is fantastic then is how we are growing beyond what lots of people think of Kahoot as, is that the engaging quiz that they might have used, whereas now we have engagement is the pathway into how we're able to support learning communities, really accelerating and supporting impactful learning for all of their students. So we've got lots of different modes, presentations, game modes. We've got ways in which we can leverage AI in some really exciting ways. So if anyone's here at Bett, please join us. And if you're seeing this after Bett, jump onto kahoot.com or send me a message on LinkedIn or various other platforms, and be lovely to support you.
Amazing. And the thing about Kahoot is that most people will remember either being teachers or they'll remember being students, and they'll remember the music. Do. Like, it's a little bit like
I'm not
that.
sure that's
Is that another tune?
exactly-
Is that a tune? That's what I remember.
Yeah.
That's what I remember. Anyway,
Yeah.
but what I love is the fact how the integration as well. So Kahoot is one of those products that plays nice, right?
Yeah.
And as we were seeing on the stand earlier, integrations with Disney, with Google, with all these other places. Just before we kind of talk about what the future education might look like and where Kahoot sees itself in that space, that's important to you, right? That's really important to you.
Yeah. And I think that we both know in the roles that we've had in schools and also supporting schools and colleges across Europe, actually, Ben, I know in the various things that we've done, those integrations are so important because we want to reduce the friction for teachers when they're accessing the content that we have and when they're creating content to be able to share with their learners. So yeah, we have those fantastic partnerships. You mentioned a couple there. Disney and Marvel are always the ones that spring to mind to me. And we also have some that have much more localized content. So jump on, explore, and teachers will find straight away how now we support, for example, lots of GCSE subjects. You can dive in, find the right lesson, the right topic for you, and that will just go ahead and something that you can plug in and use with your students immediately.
That's cool. And that really brings us into this important question that we've been asking around Bett and before Bett about well-run schools. Now, we're not trying to tell people what a school should look like.
Yep.
Nobody's trying to do that. But you've worked in schools. You've got children are in schools.
Yeah.
You've got relationship with lots of schools. But from whether it's a Coop position or a Jon position, well-run schools, what does that mean?
To me, whenever I think about a school that's well-run, or even, as you say, a school that I would like my own children to be in, which is such a useful lens to be viewing things through now, I think culture, to me, is the most important thing. And I think you get such a sense of that from when you go into the school grounds and you get that sense of we're all in it together.
Yeah.
And as we well know, that doesn't mean it's the same for all learners. In fact, it probably means the opposite, is really understanding the individuals that you have in front of you, both as teacher and also in those really fortunate moments where you might see someone in the corridor, or maybe they've arrived into your lesson a little bit early, or they're staying behind a bit later. Or for myself, it was being coach of a basketball team. Those conversations, the way that you can deepen your understanding of where those learners are, really helps you to understand not only where they are going, but how you can support them on that journey. And I think the culture, finding those areas of passion for all learners is so, so important.
Yeah, and that's really an important part, a clever part, maybe even, of what Kahoot do as an organisation. Because I think the other bit that we've talked about previously is about enjoyment, about fun, and that's the bit, right? So there's assessment happening through a quiz, but the kids think they're having fun. They're having a competition with somebody else or whatever else that looks like. And it's not just about quizzing; it's about resources. But it's the engagement and fun. And if we can keep students engaged, and we can keep teachers and leaders engaged because we're supporting them with the resources that go with that, then that becomes part of it, doesn't it?
I think it does, absolutely. And there was certainly a time where I can remember in UK education circles, almost there was a perception that the word engagement had a bit of a sort of negative connotations associated with it. I don't think for any company, and certainly speaking on behalf of Kahoot, the end goal is not to have engaged learners. It is for learners to be engaged in what they are doing, both in that class when they're there present with the teacher and with their peers, but also now how we offer learning outside of the classroom. You can have asynchronous learning activities. We also have something where students can take ownership of their own learning. So teachers can issue on Kahoot student passes. You as a student can then go, you can create your quizzes, your lessons, micro courses, study groups with your peers, and then you can learn together. So it's really looking to celebrate learning in a way that feels collaborative with your, with those, I don't want to say colleagues, but with those peers in your classroom.
And what's really interesting there is that ownership. We've had conversations with lots and lots of organisations about if you have ownership or agency, whatever the phrase is, and learners take that themselves, that's what we're there. So in terms of steps forward, it's not necessarily telling us about what the next steps for Kahoot are, although we might be able to, but more importantly, it's for education as a whole. Future, we're edufuturists. You're an edufuturist. You've always been an edufuturist because you've thought about what could be done differently as we go forward. What do you see?
I think we're certainly, the last couple of years has seen a real opportunity for shifting mindset, and I think shifting approach to how we think about education, both as it happens in those face-to-face chances when we're privileged to be in that same space and to share that same space as the learners, but also how we can support them outside of the class. And one of the things that we're trying to do, you mentioned student agency, independence is so important, and making students feel empowered to drive their own learning forward. So where they can see an end goal that resonates with them in a way that feels exciting, that is something that they can truly become engaged with, and where learning becomes something that they want to do, that they strive to do in a way that is allowing them to become the person that they want to be and to contribute not only while they're at school, but I think really importantly, when their time in education ends, and how they can, I think the phrase is make a dent outside of education.
Yeah, I love it. And I think you can see there's a dent being made, massive dent. For those people who haven't seen it yet, Kahoot know what they're doing when it comes to exhibitions in that space. Jon, we always have valued you as a human, but also you as a forward thinker, teacher, someone who cares passionately about community. And I'm going to kind of just diverge where we're going to go, but community has been really important for you and about bringing people together. So you mentioned it about learners creating their own little spaces for peer groups, but you've also been an advocate of bringing the people together, haven't you? And I think that's something that I've always looked up to in you, because I think you get that really well.
Yeah, and it's so important, Ben. And I think, we all have our reasons why. Finding that why is so important. And for me, I can remember a time when about sort of 10 years into teaching I worked with some great colleagues, and yet there was still something that was lacking for me in terms of feeling like, was teaching the right career path for me? What was education what I'd signed up for? And what I was able to do then was jumping onto, as was Twitter, was to find a community of like-minded educators. So I started off in PE and how technology could be used in a way that was driven by, this is what's best for my learners. And it didn't mean it was the same thing in every context, but the interesting thing about community and how it supported me there was I was able to learn from people all over the world. And that really opened my eyes to there is more, and there's so much possibility out there. If you just, I think now LinkedIn is where I probably spend the majority of my time. And
TikTok, you do look a bit of TikTok.
I do enjoy vertical video. But that also speaks to how we can cultivate those opportunities for community where you can rally each other, you can pick each other up. I think community has been such a source of inspiration for me. And certainly one of the things that I'm trying to do in the UK and Ireland now for Kahoot is to connect with those people that I know are sharing a passion. They wouldn't be connecting about a specific tool or anything that was feature wise, but more our shared goal is X. Yeah. Let's get together and I want to learn from you. And also I think when you're in that community, it gives you a sense of feeling like it's okay to get things wrong. It's okay to fail, because if you are in that position where things aren't always going 100% to plan, my experience is that that's when you're so close to doing something that is really going to move not only your learning forward, but when you share that with your community and you have those ripples, it's kind of like, even saying that now gets me super excited and goosebumps.
Well, I think just to kind of call back, you've done that for so many, and I know this is not about you, but you've done that for so many. When you were speaking on the Google Teacher Stand all them years ago, when you were doing the work at Halcyon early, do you know what I mean? We've done that, and everywhere you've been, you've tried to bring people with you, not about doing it on your own. So we're grateful for that, and we're grateful for you. As a kind of final thing, I'm going to ask you what we ask as one of our quick fire questions, and you didn't know this was coming, but we think it's a really important question. You've probably had to answer this question as a dad.
Yeah.
But if a 10-year-old asked you why they have to go to school, what would you actually say?
I think for me, schooling now is very different to how it might have looked 10, 20, 30 years ago. And I think one of the challenges for us, just taking a step back, is everyone's an expert because everyone's been at school, right? But I think one of the dangers of that is we can forget what's happening, not only in school now, but what's happening outside of school. And I think wherever school is for you, it's about community. It's about developing those social and personal skills I think can help drive you forward. I think it gives you an opportunity to be inspired by what your friends are doing, to make those friendships, to have those sometimes difficult moments of emotions and the stresses of homework and whatever else it might be, but getting through those together, understanding how to communicate, how to tell stories, how to develop creative confidence. Those are the things that I love about education and for my own children. And I think that what I'm seeing, looking across and how education is evolving and how school is there are some absolute gems of teachers that can really connect in such a deep level, and the inspiration that they can provide for not only my own children but for others is again one of those opportunities that you only get from education. So whatever school looks like for the individual, and I think that's the key as well, is we know that doesn't necessarily look the same for every young person, but finding that place, meeting those friends, developing those relationships, I think that for me is the key. And what's interesting is I didn't mention learning or academic success as a part of that, but
it's not the only thing.
And I think that when you feel more comfort and more security, that's when the learning will happen.
Love it. One thing you'd leave us with, Jon. What would you leave people with from Kahoot or from Jon as a kind of final thought? This is Jerry's final thought, but it's Jon's final thought.
Yeah. So we're at Bett, and one of the really good opportunities here is to be seeing what's happening. And I think whether it's at Bett, whether it's on social media, whether it's in your school, your working environment, is to be open-minded, to see what people are doing, to ask questions about why they're doing it. And I think that would really help not only inform what we're doing for the next few months, the end of this academic year, but whatever your context is, how we can take those lessons, learn from them, bring them into our own lives and to our using them as a source of inspiration, driving us forward. But I think even with that, I can sense, as I say it, community to me just runs deep. So find a community that you can be passionate about.
Love it. And if that's a Kahoot community, get involved, connect with Jon.
Exactly.
Get on the Kahoot website. There's loads and loads of opportunities. Yeah. Jon, we love you, mate. Thank you for doing what you're doing.
We are here on day 2 of Bett. It has been a super it's mad. It's such a bonkers, chaotic but wonderful experience of educators, leaders, and people coming together. So, yeah, day two. Do you want to introduce yourself, your role, what your organisation does, and I suppose why you're at Bett?
Sure, thank you. Hi, so my name's Polly Morgan. I'm the CEO of Idea Foundation, and we run the Inspiring Digital Enterprise Award. Our website's idea.org.uk, and on there we have a super fun and engaging platform with lots of ready-to-go lessons, bite-sized, self-paced, gamified learning content, which is covering all sorts of things like how to stay safe online, what is blockchain, what's AI, skills that we need budding entrepreneurs might want to learn about, things like growth mindset and using social media to market businesses. And how it works is everybody, as they complete our modules, they're awarded with points and digital badges, which they use as credentials to sort of showcase their skills. And their badges and their points all add up towards them getting a bronze, silver, or gold Inspiring Digital Enterprise Award certificate.
Love that. And I was, as everybody knows, instead of listeners, I was on the education for 17 years as an educator and a leader. Ideas was a wonderful platform in terms of those extensions bit, but also that bit engagement in terms of flipped learning, asynchronous, but also those guys for the individuals that just wanted to explore personally how they can be improved digitally. It might not be for all, but actually for some, it's a really, really worthwhile tool. Just individually for parents to engage with and lots of different things to then just say, how can we be better in passion projects and things that we want to do that we think will carry us forward beyond just the subject knowledge that we're maybe getting in schools?
Thanks, Stephen. And actually a really nice thing that I've been hearing from educators and people who I've met here yesterday was how they're using Idea to make sure that all of their students in the school, not just those studying computer science, leave with a certificate, a qualification that says, you know, we have digital skills and competencies, so it goes across the school.
I think that's the thing. It's like choice is when they only have certain choices and they only have enough space in terms of their timetable, choice is difficult and limited in terms of what they can fit in. But that doesn't mean that they don't have an interest and we shouldn't improve them. For example, 16 to 18-year-olds, they might have maths as a GCSE or a functional skill. That doesn't mean they need to not focus on it more. Same as digital, they might not have picked that. They might not have feel like it's an area of focus in the school. But actually, that doesn't mean societally and actually for the future of the world that actually digital is so important. How everybody can be lifting the tide up with just those little bits of points. Bits here, bits there, and they can build like their own little curriculum based on their passion and their thoughts, can't they?
Yeah, exactly. And that's the really nice thing about it. There's so many topics, so many subjects on there that there really is something for everyone. And hopefully it helps them all get more interested in digital. Maybe those that thought they really weren't suddenly find through the lens of looking at like how things like blockchain can aid with supply chain transparency and kind of the impacts of that for good in the world. It suddenly becomes a new kind of angle in.
I love that. And I think it's one of those things where there's so much things that we could do. Digital, we need to create more space in education, as we know, not just subject knowledge in regards to development of skills. In the world of AI, actually, those human intelligence skills that have always been called soft. I hate the term softer skills because it's soft as if they don't need to do it and it's not a focus. Human intelligence is really demonstrating what humans are really good at and how we need to narrow down and really focus on those. And I think IDEA has some wonderful things on there in regards to those developments of that for long-lasting change. I'm going to ask you a question, and it's like a parent where you shouldn't really select your children and pick a child. But what I'm going to say to you is there anything that you've been working on that Ideas is bringing out, or been everything else that you thought that you're really enjoying currently, without neglecting the rest? Anything that you think, oh, recently or previously, I think this is really, really good. Yes, we know it's all brilliant, but is there anything that you've really enjoyed being involved in recently?
Gosh, I think at the moment I've got two favourite badges on Idea.
Yep.
And I don't, as we say, it's like children, I don't like to pick favourites.
Yep.
But one of them in the entrepreneur category is called Growth Mindset. And that is a really super lovely badge to engage with. And I think one that everybody should just do. I think we all know that having a growth mindset is a kind of, I believe anyway, the key to really unlocking success, because we can all keep learning. And the other one is a bit of a curveball, actually, in terms of digital skills content and that we had on Idea and entrepreneurship. But we collaborated with St. John's Ambulance, and we have a first aid badge, which it's been really popular. And I think just actually it's a skill that everybody needs to have, so they can feel confident to step in and help should there be an emergency.
I'm a dad of two feral young children, as all the listeners will know. I've got a 4-year-old boy and soon to be 6-year-old girl. And those little badging elements, I teach my children digital skills on a regular basis in regards to speech to text and all those kind of things. They're not great fans of homework. They get homework even at that age, but they love the digital element and storytelling. And I didn't even know there was a first aid badge. I literally, because that's a skill that I think is really important. I did my first aid. I was a lifeguard when I was growing up and all those things. And literally, it's something that I always want to go back to. And as a parent, actually, it's not something that is automatic. That really, as parents and all those kind of things, that learners could, as young people, maybe focus down on that and develop it. So your title is CEO, and leadership is a really interesting conversation. But I think based on your experience, and you might say, you are qualified to answer this question, but you might not feel comfortable answering the question. What would you say do you see, whether in education or in business, or your thoughts on leadership, I suppose, in terms of your style, your approach, and the development of a company?
My approach is probably but IDEA is a charity. We are a tiny charity, actually, although we do a lot, and we have a lot of people. Over 2.5 million people are now using our platform. But we actually, until recently, have been a team of 2 full-time employees. Now we're 3. We have brilliant volunteers that help, and people also who are sort of doing 1-2 days a week helping us. So it's not quite that tiny. But so I think for me, I think authenticity is really key, and also focusing in the whole team, even the tiny team, on what's our vision, what's our mission, what are we trying to achieve? Because for us, especially being a small team with a big project, we are juggling and priorities are shifting and things are changing quickly. And so it's always thinking like, well, hang on a minute, where's our North Star? What are we trying to do? What's going to make the biggest difference? And I think something I've learned actually recently is to be less afraid of failure and perfectionism. And it's the growth mindset stuff that I was coming back to before, but it's looking at things as experiments and not being afraid of sort of trying new things out, but also thinking, from the charity's perspective, and I guess from a business efficiency perspective, how can we quickly test something in the cheapest way possible before we actually put more time, resource, money, effort into doing this? And I guess that can be applied through schools as well. If things about how we might change the way we do things at school, can we ask students, run surveys, do quick things before introducing the big change?
The prototyping element and the constant cycle of being able to observe, orient, and really go through an OODA loop or an instance of change. But that prototyping element that Nike and all of those different organisations have done really, really well of, yes, we're not aiming for perfection, we're aiming for progress, but ultimately you want to test it first, even in that small bit, before you really invest any further and it goes wrong. I guess it's okay to fail and change, but ultimately to test it first is always a good evidence of that.
I'm a real big data nerd, so I'm always going, well, how can we measure this? Yeah,
and I'm sure through the charity and I'm sure through all of the different work and all the partners that you have, data is really important in terms of those metrics, in terms of return on investment. So I suppose just as we close and we go through the conversation, rather than thinking about what does the future of education look like, I'm going to shift it and I'm going to say, what is your hope for education and the future of education?
That's a really nice question. I think, I hope that it's much more personalized and much more equitable. And I think that the two things can be quite interlinked, because we can tailor learning better to the individual, the student, the learner.
So I love that. Brilliant response. And before we finish, the final question. We always go to quick fire.
Okay.
So let's see how we get on with this one. So if a 10-year-old asked you why they have to go to school, what would you actually say?
How quick is quick fire?
As quick as you can. Some people will go on this for about 5 minutes. So we've had it's a very big spectrum. As quick as you could.
As quick as I can. Okay. Why they have to go to school? Gosh, because everybody goes to school. Because that's where your friends are. That's your community. That's where learning happens. That's where we're going to discover what our potential might be, where we might like to kind of progress in terms of what things we're going to do when we're older. I think I try to explain to them as well, it's like sort of as much about that self-discovery and self-learning than just going in and doing what we're told and following, I want to say break all the rules, but sort of just going along.
Non-compliant children non-compliant children is what we want. We don't want factory workers. We want curiosity, rebellious to a certain point, but ultimately within guardrails. And I always say all time to anybody who listens that my children are feral, but kind and curious feral, because that's what we want, especially young girls. We want curious, rebellious young children that are not going to just go and agree, that they're going to disagree respectfully. So we're here, day 3 of Bett. I feel like I've been in a washing machine and it's just about to spit me out. I don't know how I'm going to survive to the end of day 3, Jip. So it must be more intense. It's probably planning has been a long standing for you rather than just the 3 days. But for those people that I don't know how, but might not know you, introduce yourself, your role, your organisation, and maybe why you're at Bett, I guess.
Yeah, so my name's James. I'm the co-founder and CEO of Arbor. We are the #1 MIS platform for schools in the UK. And, I set up the company 15 years ago with my fellow co-founders, and it was born out of frustration of how much time schools were spending on unnecessary, everyday, repetitive, administrative tasks. And our goal, which has never been more true today, is to transform the way schools work by really eliminating all of that repetitive, everyday admin so that teachers can get on teaching, leaders can get on leading, admins can get on actually doing proper administrative work and analysing data, and then using all of the data to help pinpoint which students are most in need.
Yeah, and I almost forgot to call it out. Congratulations, Bett. Bett Award winners.
Yeah.
For AI.
Yeah, for AI. Yeah, for exactly what I just talked about. How can we, reduce? How can we this year? Our mission is to transform the way schools work, but we're really focusing this year on putting your everyday admin on autopilot. So it's about taking a whole task and automating it completely end to end with AI.
And I think it's that whole thing of, Joe, AI is, if you can go to a conference or be in a conversation with educators or technology and not mention AI, I think you win a prize now, mate. But I think it's one of those things of a lot of the conversations of people saying AI versus AI here. It's like the skills knowledge kind of conundrum of things separately. And what we say is AI with humans. That actually AI, automation, technology is actually, I don't want to say the enabler because it might be overused, but it's about humans are wonderful at certain interactions, the empathy, the understanding. They have human intelligence. How can we use AI and technology to really just make humans do the stuff that they're absolutely wonderful at and have needed to focus on for such a long period of time?
Yeah, look, totally. Like in a couple of years, we won't be talking about AI. It will just be a thing, and it's a tool, not a solution. So, and it's not always the answer, right? So, like, I think our pitch is we're trying to leverage AI or just automation in general to take away all of those like boring jobs that you don't want to do. That's where our focus is. The more boring, the better. The less value added, the more interested I am in it. So tell me the most boring, annoying thing in your day, and that's what I get excited about now.
Yeah, and from the things that are most boring, but you've just said the most exciting thing. I suppose your role and the business has grown so much. Andrew, you have founded it, you've been involved in it, you've probably been doing a lot of the doing for such a long period of time. And as a business has accelerated, congratulations on market share, by the way, which is always a nice thing. I think it's my 13th bet, and you go from where you were in terms of the rebel, the kind of when Google Education came in, it's like, what, the search engine? They're probably, what's Arbor? And ultimately to where it is, and you think that because it's working, but I suppose your role has changed and shifted and all those kind of things. But maybe something, I know there's a million things that you're probably working on, some things you can't share and some things you can. Rather than a roadmap, what's something that in your role that is really exciting you that you guys are doing at the minute?
So the two things I'm kind of really focused on this year is like, how do we change the way that Arbor works? Like, as you say, we've been around for 13 years. We've built up a whole bunch of processes that like need rebuilding. Like Arbor in the next 10 years won't be what Arbor was in the last 10 years. So like, how do we use AI internally? Are we recruiting the next generation of like leaders? Are they the absolute best people in ed tech? Spend a lot of time on recruiting, if you want a job, come and speak to me. And then for customers, because it's a new era of building, like the way you build products with AI is just totally different to the last 10 years. And we need to totally rebuild Arbor again for like Arbor in 2030 won't look anything like it does today, from a user interface all the way down to the code level and the way we support it. So I'm trying to build that future. It feels like actually I'm back to 2010 again and I'm building. So to your point, like I'm not like hands-on and everything anymore at all, but like I'm getting much more involved in future product and what we're shipping to our customers.
And I think that's one of those things that, like, education is an interesting one at leadership when they look and say, well, you should be in the classroom, you should be doing this. And I'm like, I get that. You have to have a knowledge base. But at the same point, a lot of leadership, often the way that I would view it personally, I suppose from my perspective, is you're a conductor. You need to be overseeing. You need to be eyes on the business and moving it rather than hands on. And I think it's that oversight and basically just conducting the orchestra.
Yeah, there's conducting. Sometimes it's conducting, and then like I always see myself, I've got a little torch, and I can only shine it in one place at a time, and like that's the place that might need more attention in the business, or you know, a bit of a spotlight. But you can't actually do much. You're working through people, so that's why I said my main focus is hiring incredible people, and that bar just keeps on getting higher and higher. And you don't actually need to get that involved. Conducting becomes quite easy if everyone knows what notes to play. You know,
Yeah, exactly, and that's the bit where people go, well, that's the person, and he's like, actually, there's a real strength in the ability to shine a light in the right places, to not put it in people's eyes.
Yeah.
Be a rabbit.
No. It's a very gentle bathing light. It's not like a harsh one. No.
Absolutely. So obviously we've talked about that, and we've talked about the future of Arbor and education as a whole. Rather than saying what's the prediction of the future, we're really bad at predictions, I'm sure. What's your hope for education then in terms of the future?
Well, I think schools are under a lot of pressure from every angle, like more compliance burdens, funding is hard. You know, even the longer term, there are just less children. So schools will have to change at a pace that they are probably not comfortable with because of all of these different forces coming. And what's that? I'm trying to make that change beneficial, because some of it will be hard. I just want to make sure it lands well, and that staff are happier working in their roles in schools because they're not overburdened with work, and students are attaining more. That is possible at the same time, but it's going to be a real transformation of the sector in the next 5 years. I really don't think a school in 2030 or 2035 is going to look much like a school today. If all of those things keep on going in the same direction, it just can't. So I mean, I don't know what to predict on that, but you're going to have to, students are going to have to learn more, probably using AI, learning will have to become much more personalized. Schools are going to have to become much more flexible, both in terms of, you know, how they treat their staff and what days you can choose. Are you full-time? Can you work remotely? Maybe students aren't in school just as much as they are as well, but it's going to be wild. I couldn't even tell you how it's going to land, but
it's really interesting. The Edufuturists obviously book comes out in June. Pick and Mix Education, in regards to education, is part of the jigsaw, but in terms of schools, but actually it doesn't have to be the whole linear. For some schools, works for perfect, is really successful. People really enjoy it, but actually for such a large demographic, actually schools is not the right place. Learning is, education has to be, but that could be online, that could be say part-time, that could be different, that could be micro learning, that could be lots of different ways, homeschooling learners, all those kind of things.
I think learning is, we say internally, learning used to only happen in the classroom. Now, even in schools today, learning is happening in the classroom. It's happening at home. It's happening on YouTube Shorts. It's happening on apps that students have. It's happening with parents. It's happening on TV. It's everywhere. But the problem is, it's basically impossible to track right now because it's so fragmented. And how can you start to get a view on, you know, if you have 30 kids in the class, they're all learning in a million different ways, in a million different contexts. You know, who do you need to help next and why? That is a really interesting challenge.
Yeah, because data is everywhere, but actually it's. I used to work in analysis of sports performers, and the biggest collective of data was the Welsh rugby union team. But actually they weren't performing because they weren't actually utilising the data they were collecting. And it's a great example in a link to schools that ultimately so many collect it, but it's not about how much data you have. It's about what do you do and the impact you have with the data.
For sure. Data again is just a tool, right? So it's how it's used. And so I think we have to show what's possible over the next couple of years. And that's why an MIS, it's going to totally change as schools change, right? It's neat. We need to capture where all of that different learning and where it's happening, ingest it and actually make recommendations to teachers about who they need to focus on and why. That's not what you'd expect from your MIS right now, but it's what you need to do, what we need to do in the future.
Brilliant. And I know you're strapped for time, you're a busy man, but the last question, we do quick fire.
Okay.
You'll be some people go, how quick is quick? You'll be as quick as you are.
I love quick.
But the last question is, if a 10-year-old was to ask you why they have to go to school, what would you actually say, James Smith?
Learn more about the world, learn more about yourself, and learn how to, play well with others.
So we are on day 3 of Bett, and we are really, really privileged to be with a special guest who's just come off the arena stage and is ready now to come into a conversation with us. Could you just tell us who you are, what you do? Tell us a little bit about that, please.
So I'm Aanya Niaz, and I am part of the social responsibility and impact team at AWS, and I lead the AWS Education Equity Initiative, which is an up to $100 million in technology commitment over the next 5 years that helps organizations like Code.org and Tangible Africa which I'll tell you a little bit more about, around the world, build digital learning for underserved learners globally.
Amazing. Okay. So you've just come off the arena stage and you're here at Bett. There's a great big presence of lots and lots of organizations, including big, huge, massive organizations like AWS. Could you tell us a little bit about what you've been talking about at Bett and what your, I suppose the message for Bett is really?
The focus of my conversations have really been with innovators, educators, as well as learners who are trying to address educational inequities. And they are looking to experiment with, leverage, as well as use cloud and AI technology to come up with innovative solutions that make sense in local contexts.
Okay.
So for an example, today on stage, I had two influential educators with me, the founders of Tag Hive and PyJab Foundation, that are leveraging AI in limited bandwidth and offline environments to make learning more personalized, that can supplement data that enables teachers to tell better stories about the impact they're having. So these are the types of conversations that I'm having at Bett.
That's awesome. And your role is probably, first of all, can I just ask you, AWS, for those people who don't know what that is and they're hidden under a rock somewhere, just tell us a little bit about that, and then what your role as global equity lead and in that space, what does that actually look like? So tell us a little bit about AWS and then about what you do.
Sure. So Amazon Web Services, or AWS for short, is the most broadly adopted cloud in the world. We offer access to cloud and AI technologies in the form of a variety of services, such as an example could be Amazon Bedrock. And if you're leveraging AWS and using Amazon Bedrock, you can access different LLMs, different large language models. So you can build digital learning, digital solutions, digital products on cloud and AI technology.
Okay. And so that's really important. So it's how the things function and run in that cloud space. For your role then, I love this because a lot of businesses are about, and understandably are about, making as much profit as possible. And then what does that look like? Your role here of what you've just talked about is a commitment to the equity conversation here and making fair access, especially in underrepresented spaces or that kind of stuff. So in terms of your role then and the priorities, what is that looking like?
So in my role as the global leader for the AWS Education Equity Initiative, I am trying to accelerate access to cloud and AI technology for organizations that are wanting to either build or scale digital learning products or solutions for underserved learners. So for an example, let's look at Code.org. Code.org is a global nonprofit. They operate in over 100 countries in the world, and they're leveraging cloud and AI technology by AWS to build this teaching assistant, a teaching AI assistant. What that AI assistant does is it reviews all the student projects in coding and helps teachers save up to 50% of their time, which they would have spent on assessing, but now they're spending with the students. So it's increasing teacher and student face time. Another example of what I do in my role is support and empower organizations with cloud and AI tech like Tangible Africa. Tangible Africa is based out of South Africa, even though they're operating in at least 10 different countries. And they've developed a hybrid curriculum, which means that this coding curriculum rooted in STEM curriculum in South Africa is made available to learners through an app. And once they've downloaded the app, they don't even need connectivity to access it. And that app helps them. It comes with something tangible like puzzle pieces. So every time they progress in the app, they play a game, they progress, they get to put puzzle pieces together. So you're seeing how technology and hybrid solutions are even developing spatial awareness in learners around the world.
I can really see the question I wanted to ask you is about what you're passionate about. And well, this doesn't, it's absolutely abundantly clear that there's a passion there to make technology available and also to have impact in the world in that space. So the passion, why are you passionate about this? Why is that the passion? Or have I got that wrong, or is other passions in that space?
I think passions for me are ever evolving. The dedication to education at AWS comes because the company really believes that success and scale brings broad responsibility. So how can we work with organizations, of which there are countless around the world, who know their communities best, who are closest to the realities of underserved learners, and then give them this access to cloud and AI tech so they can experiment and nurture new transformations. So the passion really comes from being able to connect the dots, to take that technology to those that know what to do with it. And another piece that comes up is, in addition to the access to cloud and AI technology, we also provide curated support to build confidence in using technology. As people are learning about AI, they're learning about cloud. Well, how do we navigate this? And to that end, it's also really passion-inducing to know that we offer impact accelerators that bring in social entrepreneurs and leaders that are innovating in education, health, and climate, and they get to learn with others how to best access and make use of the cloud, make access of AI services, and start to build solutions that they can take away to their communities to make an impact.
Okay.
So it's easy to get passionate about that.
I can see, and especially when you're making that available. And this is both me and Steve are teachers by trade. We've started being teachers, and then I've tried to help in that space around digital. How do we train people who maybe are a little bit less confident in this, but the real global impact here is the fact that somebody who hasn't got internet access all the time, or hasn't got opportunity to play in that space or to use that stuff, and that AWS are making that available and doing that, I think it's I can see why you get passionate about it. We talk about well-run schools here because as a key part of that ecosystem, it's not always just like the physical schools. You're always seeing these globally, and it's one of those things, schools and education, is that we've all been to school, so we've all got an opinion on what it's like. And I know you're not working in schools, but what do you think well-run schools might look like? And what might that look like?
As a point of clarification, even though I don't directly work in schools, we have plenty of organizations that were supporting or helping with access to cloud and AI technology that are working in schools, that are leveraging the power of cloud to develop apps that can monitor student attendance, student participation, student learning outcomes, that can arm educators with that data online real time. So the impact and the engagement with schools is there. When you talk about important features of a well-run school or college or university, for me, first of all, it's how do we build deep orientation with uncertainty? So as we're seeing AI disrupt and create new realities, create new excitements, I think a well-run school or institution really helps learners develop the capacity to stay centered and be okay when answers aren't immediately available.
Okay.
A well-run school, it equips learners to be able to strengthen their curiosity, their discernment, and inner stability in such moments of uncertainty, and to access that technology to get the knowledge they need and to be equipped with making sense of it. Second, another important feature of a well-run school or institution for me is one that designs time carefully and with intention.
Okay.
So I think effective schools are about tempo. They know when to slow thinking down, when to allow ideas to incubate, when to invite urgency, reflection, silence, dialogue, synthesis. They're all structured in a very purposeful way. And you can see how AI and technology and these apps, they can power that kind of structured time intentionality. And last but not least, another feature that I think is important is cultivating learning as a shared human endeavor. So a well-run educational environment is treating learning as something that people are building together. So learners, they feel supported when they're thinking. They feel supported when they're exchanging ideas. They're able to revisit their beliefs openly, and they can care about the collective intellectual space. And once again, you're seeing that there's a role of cloud and AI technology that can enable these environments to exist, that can monitor real time, that can send personalized nudges to create such environments. So those would be the three.
I think that's one of the best answers I've ever heard, genuinely, because it's intentional. It's about intention. It's about using data purposefully and intentionally. It's about using technology in that space, but making choices and human-centered choices about the human that's personalized, but using technology that supports into that. And also, I love that word that you just used about tempo, is that everything can be really fast. And sometimes when it comes to the use of technology, the AI response comes at a moment and there's no pay, and so much like it's immediate. Like, everything's immediate gratification. And the fact that you said that a well-run school, college, university would be one that navigates tempo and then uses technology in that space, that really landed, and I love that. None of us got a crystal ball. We can't see what the future's going to be, but we do know that education looks very different in lots of ways, and then very similar in lots of ways to where it's always been. From a future of education question, we're Edufuturists. As a collective, and actually our community, we actually think about those people who care about what education could look like, as well as what it does look like, are part of the pack, part of the community, the wolf pack we call it. So future of education, what might it look like, or what could it be? Not asking for crystal ball predictions, right?
It's a really good question. I turn towards these organizations that we have the privilege of supporting, like Rocket Learning in India. That's an ed tech that is leveraging the power of AI to have real-time insights on what WhatsApp-based learning is being distributed in rural communities. These types of examples, like the Code.org one, Tangible Africa, and then, Paijan Foundation, as well as Tag Hive, who I've had the honor of sharing the stage with today, they really point towards a key learning, which is redesigning education so that it builds self-trust in times of uncertainty, which is something I talked about earlier. So no matter what the modality is, right, whether it's online learning, it's hybrid, it's in person, learning should deepen a learner's relationship with their own signals, the ability to sense, the ability to reflect, the ability to choose wisely. And we're seeing such informative guidance and policy emerge globally in different parts of the world, right, around AI and technology consumption. I think it offers an opportunity for us to spend time to understand it, reflect on it, understand what that might mean for us. And just as importantly, I think the future of education is one in which it teaches us how to relate to each other with empathy and with presence.
So there's what I didn't hear you say there, and this is amazing. What I didn't hear you say there is more technology, quicker access to technology, faster devices. It wasn't that. And that's what's beautiful, I think, is that even though you work for a huge tech organization in that space, in that sense, they were human conversations you just mentioned. You talked about empathy, you talked about developing kindness and the ability to make things accessible and fair. I love that. And I think the future of education, we need to focus on many of those things and how technology then can supercharge and power up that, as you mentioned earlier. Last question is about change. So it's very fashionable. We've had Cigar to Mitra on a podcast, and Cigar to Mitra talked about it's very fashionable to say that the education system's broken. He doesn't think it's broken. It's just he thinks it's outdated. Is his position, and that we're not asking for a position on that. But a lot of people are like, we want change, we want change, we want change. But then very few people want to change. They just want change, and so there's an interesting thought in that. But what could we hope for potentially about change in education? What would you hope for? And maybe in a role that you're doing, what would you hope for in terms of change?
I look towards the organizations we support again, because as you noted about, being deliberate with access, being deliberate about technology, meeting learners, educators, parents, caregivers where they are. I'll share some examples. So for an example, when I think of change, I think of millions of learners in Brazil that are now able to access through an organization called Gibbet an online digitized examination prep opportunity. That's change. That's taking the reality of learners who have to prepare for high-stakes exams and meeting them there with technology, giving them that content in ways they understand it. Another example is zNotes. zNotes, headquartered in the UK in multiple countries, they capture and digitize student notes so that each student can access and learn in the language, in the context that they can understand, because students know how to speak other students' language. And they also use these notes digitally to be able to prepare for examinations. So when I look around me, I see change happening in all forms. It is at the heart of innovation. And I think change happens in a meaningful way when we meet individuals where they are, and then we bring them on that journey with us.
Love that. And I'm going to just jump in and add, what we need in education from a change perspective is the ability to listen to different voices. And I think what we've been able to do today is listen to you and your voice, and also giving voice to the other people who are in the space, the other organisations that are trying really hard to bring change and make a difference. And so thank you so much for joining us on the Edufuturists podcast. Thank you for the work that you're doing to open up the doors, to give the access, and keep doing what you're doing. We're very, very grateful that there's people that do care more than just what business can be, but want to make a difference. So thank you for that, and thank you for being with us on the podcast.
So day 3 of Bett, it has been an interesting week. We had the conversation off air before we came on of, have you been all right? It feels like I've been here my whole life. We'll discuss that and the time that you've been in the space and immersed in it. But do you want to introduce yourself, your role, your organisation, and what you've been doing at Bett?
Yeah, absolutely. So I'm Professor Alison Clark-Wilson. I am a former UK school maths teacher, but moved into research, curriculum development, lots of work supporting teachers to develop digital skills, literally from the time when we were working with one standalone computer in our classrooms. So seen a lot of hype, and I've been coming to Bett since, oh my goodness, mid-90s. So interesting space.
An OG. So in terms of your organisation, UCL, what does that, because from an out to external perspective, people then look at it and think, it's research. But what does that look like? What does that feel like? And maybe some structures within it.
Absolutely. So, I mean, UCL's huge institution, big university, high achieving. The 3 areas, I suppose, that we are most facing education. We have the Institute of Education there, which is the #1 research institution in the world for educational research. But within that, we have teacher education programs, both in the UK, but all over the world. So we're supporting governments to develop their teacher education processes, and also supporting the way that we accredit and recognise teachers and support their professional development. And digital's been a huge part of that. So, it's hard to imagine training to be a teacher anywhere now without having to really develop those digital skills and competencies. Outside of that, we have a School of Engineering, Computer Science, which supports the real hard tech aspects of digital education, both for inside the university, but also spin outs and startups. And then we have a massive innovation and enterprise work, which is really outward facing and supporting some of that research that we do to really get out into the real world. And that's really the bit that I sit in. So I'm very outward facing.
And recently, you can go back as far as recent, in terms of your own definition, but what kind of things have you been working on in terms of that research and your work currently?
So my own work is looking at really how we can have better structures inside our education systems to support the technological and sort of teaching and learning innovations with technology to be researched and scaled. So ultimately, if we want the most evidenced and impactful EdTech to rise to the top, as our Minister for Education said the other day, we want the cream to rise to the top. How actually can we do that? Because schools aren't research institutions, tech companies aren't research institutions. So my own work has been looking at the way that works around the world, these testbed models, and researching what it is about them, their DNA, where the funding comes from, how do we all sort of work together, and sharing that research on a global stage.
Yeah, and there's we're at the British Education Trade Show. Bett has been in existence for such a long period of time, and I'm a huge fan of it. And I've been here not as long as you have in terms of the attendance, but a good well over a decade. And you look at it and you think, there's lots of edtech that are thinking about revenue and all those kind of things. But ultimately, a lot of the longer standing organisations do understand in the UK and England specifically, they need to be evidence based. Impact will be a question that is always asked. Yeah. But ultimately, when you bring in AI and a lot of the new tech, actually, because it's got venture capital and the investment in it, that's accelerated in terms of reinvestment, revenue, and all of those metrics rather than output and outcome, I guess. So how are you finding that shift?
I mean, you've highlighted the last 22, 24 months or so since we really saw the generative AI. I mean, the other AI has been around for a long time, and we weren't as critical of it, interestingly. I think the fact that generative AI is so mainstream, it's forced everybody to really think very carefully. And from our side, sort of thinking about it as educational researchers, there's a couple of things. There's a huge piece around what we mean when we talk about AI safety. Everyone, is aware we need some guardrails, but what those guardrails are, how high they are, who's responsible for ensuring that they're in place, is a big dialogue in the world right now, not just in this country. So, convening really important events between governments who, can make the rules and regulations that really matter. The big tech, we need them at the table, but also making sure that we've got researcher and practitioners' voices at the table, because these things need to be implementable, and lots of pie in the sky ideas about how we might do this. But we genuinely are grappling with that at this point. I think one of the most interesting things that I've heard is in the tech industry, in AI, you often have something called a model card, which describes the components of the AI widgets that you are using in your workflows. And these are often seen as a very technical thing. There's work to be done in thinking about how we can translate that so that other audiences can really understand what the AI model is, what data it's been trained at, what it's good at, what it's not good at, and potential use cases for that widget. Because the interesting thing now is everyone is hacking together lots of different widgets. So we're not about evaluating a particular LLM or a particular widget developed with an LLM at its heart. It's how do they blend together? And that's where it gets complicated. But we've got to be at the table and having these dialogues.
It's interesting. The back of every meal or every product that you buy in the supermarket will have an ingredients card. If you think about the macro and the meso, but also then all the way up to the macro, that ultimately your diet is the collection of all the different ingredients that you're having throughout your day, throughout your week, and ultimately, are you overindulging? If you're overindulging here, what are you underindulging? All of those different things. In terms, it's about a healthy, balanced diet of use of technology with purpose. And also, like you mentioned it there, in terms of we've got the big tech. Absolutely, been there. We do need big tech. I've worked with big tech and for big tech for such a long period of time as well. But ultimately, it shouldn't be those with the biggest budgets that are used the most. It's ultimately about outcomes. From a positive sense in regards to what actually can it do, right tool for right job, rather than just biggest budget means biggest user.
Yeah, and I've got a great example. I had a conversation with an early stage founder developing a really, really interesting workflow to support formative assessment, which is integrating a number of AI components. And she's a former practitioner. She understands her context well. She understands the country that she's working in. And she was telling me how her heart sank when she stood in front of a large, I won't name it, but large tech presentation earlier in the week, and saw them in a very flashy presentation, pretty well presenting her product. But she took the time to go and have a chat with them about how the various components worked. And it was quite clear that they weren't connected. They required you as a school or as a teacher or a school leader to download that database, integrate it into this bit, then this will do. So the workflow aspect of it wasn't there. And that's because it was the practitioner that really need to understand, why they might want to do that little string of things in order to get better learner data to make informed decisions.
And like in any aspect of education and technology, there's many buzzwords, and we know what the buzzwords might be. We know what buzzwords might be coming, what the hot topic or the hot theme for a month or a year or a decade might be. But ultimately, it's not in the market employ where they're ticking the box of all of those different buzzwords in terms of what happens. Is it actually doing it? Underpicking and then lifting the hood to then say, actually, how does this work? And ultimately, how much work do we have to do to actually get this working? What do we have to do humanly to get this technology in? Because you might then think, actually, this might be a little bit more. We might have to take a little bit more of a risk on a newer product, one that we maybe haven't heard of. But actually, what that means is we're investing here because we don't have the capacity to build infrastructure to host.
Very much so. You can't expect every school or every school group to build everything they need from scratch. So that's where we need that engagement between companies and the schools to be much tighter and closer than maybe it is right now. I think there's some other interesting. You asked me about what's the role of research and research organisations in all of this. One of the things that we're able to do is really stand back from the scene and maybe ask some bigger, slightly longer term questions that no one else is thinking about. And we have PhD students who, that's what they're required to do. And I had a very interesting student who finished about 5-6 years ago now, who was really looking at that challenge of how do we certify or accredit products and services in EdTech that, we can feel that we can trust them to work in the context we want to apply them. And she spent a while looking at all the different, and there are thousands of accreditation programs and badges and certifications out there globally. And she said, hang on, we're looking at the products why don't we look at the people who are building the products? Because ultimately it's the humans that are making the decisions about how things are designed and implemented. So wouldn't it be easier to think about a more B Corps way of looking at EdTech companies, leadership teams, product teams? And she developed a really nice diagnostic that really subtly gets at the heart of, is this team the right team with the right capacities and assets and processes to build products that we are going to trust? And I think it's a really interesting, alternative way of thinking about right now, it's the people we want to trust because they haven't built the products yet. So we can't have the evidence and getting a sense of, building a trustworthy sector.
Yes.
Which has workforces and teams who have the right intentions. I think is something we should be thinking about.
And whether we hone the EdTech decision-making teams within organisations or education organisations, schools, colleges or universities, what, in your opinion, or from what you've seen, what does a well-run school or organisation look like?
Oh, that's a lovely one because number one is it has to have a learning culture. You need a good leadership vision. That is, that really drives the ship. I mean, there's nothing other than a good CEO, good leader to really drive the ship. They need then to have the resources and the capacities around them towards that vision. But the other thing is a learning culture. And the thing about a learning culture is you have to slightly relax your claims because you have to accept that you won't always get things right. But if you have the processes internally to reflect on good decisions, bad decisions, not sure decisions, feed that but back into action. It's no good doing that reflective piece and then not acting on it. So there's a lot of things around how good organizations work. But I think when your end goal is an impact goal, as education is, it's a certain type of vision that needs to be very driven toward the educational mission of what it is that you're leading.
Brilliant. And I think we are often great at collecting data, sometimes not too good at using that data. We are not fantastic as humans as often with predictions. What I'd like to, rather than what is the future and your prediction of the future of education, what is your hope for the future of education?
So my hope is that we really see it as the human-centric world that education is. We can be obsessed when we come to Bett and other big fairs like this, when we see all of the technical wizardry, but most of learning happens away from the technology. None of us want to see kids with headphones on in front of screens 24/7 consuming learning resources. That's not what we think education is. So I think for me, it's just recalibrating and it's a bit of the backlash on screen time and parents' concerns about technology use in young people. It's really thinking about what's the balance. Your dietary analogy is a wonderful one. We want a highly nutritious diet, and we want children to be having a range of learning experiences with or without technology, but I don't want it to be 24/7 surveillance. I think it's really understanding where the technology adds value, saves time, without becoming so obsessed about it being used all of the time.
And what's really interesting, I'm not asking for a response here, so don't panic. I'm going a bit off pace, but it's really interesting in regards to diet and everything else. And you mentioned screen time, but ultimately we can create for screen time and technology use a healthy diet where we restrict or reduce basically unhealthy eating and consuming of everything else. That's great. But if parents and outside of education is allowing binge eating and feasting and gorging on screen time and technology, and we don't get a handle on that and teach the young people actually the structures and notifications and actually how to utilize technology and how to manage it, we don't do well as humans and as adults. So we need to support better.
I really agree with you. And I'm really challenged when we hear this backlash, banning smartphones. And you can hear those arguments. You recognize those arguments. I was in one of the big talks here at Bett yesterday on this topic. But how do we support our young people, children, young people and parents to really think about where they want that digital technology, particularly the mobile phones and, day-to-day in your face technologies. You have to have an experience of it to be able to then teach moderation, teach how it works. So I can't support that holistic ban. I think it's thinking about when and when not to, but we've got to find space in the education system to educate about the technologies, how it works, and we can't do that if we haven't got access to them. So I think these are some of the challenges.
There's not a lot in life in realistic. But the last question, and it's a quick fire one, so you can be. And people say how quick is quick fire? You be as quick as you want with this one. But if a 10-year-old came to you and said, why do they have to go to school? What would you actually say?
Oh my goodness, what a wonderful question. It's because the school, in my view, is the place where you can, in a safe and supported way, ask those questions about the world in which you inhabit, follow the lines of inquiry and interest in any area that you want, and be supported to evidence that in some way that is useful for your next steps in life.
So we're here. Bett Awards 2026. We're back again, but we've got fancy velvet.
I know, mate. I can't believe we didn't have the hat, so.
Yeah, Dumb and Dumber.
Who is going to be killing the owl with the...
You're Lloyd. I'm going to go and lick that lamp.
What are you trying to say about my haircut? Cut with a ball, ladies and gentlemen, cut with a ball. So, no, we're super excited. Bett Awards 2026. We are going to be interviewing some of the shortlisting, some of the guests, but also the winners as they come off the stage. So we are super stoked to see who are the big winners tonight.
Yeah, and we know we've got friends that are up for awards. Trudy and the team at Chartered College, Chiltern Learning.
I can't believe you're name dropping.
Yeah, Mark at Blackout. You've got friends.
Have you asked her to be a friend yet?
Oh no, I haven't actually.
Yeah.
But she has just added me to a WhatsApp group.
Okay, perfect.
So I'm in.
You're famous. You're absolutely famous. But it's going to be a wonderful evening. I think my feet are already hurting. The camera doesn't show up.
Can we just look? This lad has got socks on. He's got socks on. This is a special day. Look,
because last year I've got sock suspenders on. So I think last year really showed. I do not wear shoes, and last year my feet hurt. I've got socks on, and my feet still hurt. So I might as well just not wear socks. But I'm going to be sitting down. It's going to be wonderful food, wonderful fun, wonder laughter, and sitting next to a wonderful friend. So it's going to be a blast.
Let's do it, man. Let's do it. So we are here at the Bett Awards with the wonderful Nicole Ponsford. Not just Nicole Ponsford, right? It is now Dr. Nicole Ponsford. Congratulations.
Thank you.
So that's just recent, right?
Yeah.
So tell us a little bit about you and what you're on with, because some people will have listened to the podcast with you and others won't, and you tell us about that.
Thank you. So I was diversity and inclusion champion with you guys like last year, and since
Edufuturists Uprising 2025.
Exactly that. And now I finished a doctorate, so I've now surveyed 32,000 staff and students in education, and I've created a data set looking at the hidden voices in education.
But not just any old data set, right? It's a data set that's bigger than
the DFE at the moment.
Yeah, amazing. Okay, so your organisation is GC. Tell us what it is, why you exist.
Thank you. So basically, when I was doing my doctorate, I wanted to map out inclusion, not just from an academic stance, but from the way that we actually do it in education, which is around grassroots groups, charities, things like that. So I set up the Global Equality Collective. We've got 400 inclusion and wellbeing experts. Together, we designed and launched the GC platform, which is now across hundreds of schools across 30 countries. And as a result of that, we've now got one of the largest intersectional data sets around inclusion, with a focus on our most marginalised voices in terms of staff and students as well. So I've been busy.
Yeah, well, you have been busy, and you've got a doctorate to show for that. But also, more than that, it's representation. So I know that that's really important to you.
It is.
Tell us a little bit about why, if you could.
Well, school was my safe place when I was a little girl, and when I became a teacher, because I wasn't very good at rapping or things like Nene Cherry or Salt and Pepper, like my heroes. So I became a teacher. And when I became a teacher, I realised actually there's a lot we can do to help the young kid that was seen in me by some teachers. We don't always see the marginalised kids in our MIS systems. We don't always see the staff that are about to quit. And so I want to move the chairs around a bit myself. And thanks to Edufuturists and supporters who have helped me get my word out there, that's what I've been able to do. And that's what I'm going to keep doing.
So if we could leave listeners viewers with a message, what would you want to say?
Please check out my work and support my mission to get intentional about inclusion, and start to challenge and move the chairs around when it comes to your hidden voices in education.
Amazing. Nicole, thank you. Congratulations for all you're doing. Nominated at the Bett Awards, and you're doing great work. We are grateful to know you.
Oh, likewise back at you. Thank you.
So we're here at the Bett Awards 2026, second year. You were shortlisted for the awards. You want to tell us a bit about yourself, where you're from, and also the category you're in?
Absolutely. So I'm Christian Turton. I'm EdTech lead at Chiltern Learning Trust, and we were nominated for collaboration. So between Charter College and Teaching and ourselves, we worked on the Department for Education's guidance on AI in education, and also worked with a lot of schools on that as well. So kind of interviewed those and those features.
Yeah, and I don't know how, but for those people who missed it, tell us about that work, Joe, the importance of it, and obviously that collaboration piece between those collective bodies.
Yeah, it was really exciting actually. It was quite a pivotal time in terms of schools starting to adopt AI and thinking about how we can make sure that there's safety kind of guardrails in there, and how schools can understand how to do that safely, but also the opportunities with AI as well. So we worked on those materials. We have lots of interviews from people in the sector and schools, and the materials were released in June in 2025. Been downloaded loads of times. So I think 57,000 YouTube views and 32,000 downloads currently. So we're really proud of the work that we could have did.
And obviously, like you said, led by Chiltern, but so many collective voices from across all sectors as well, which is really so. You've got like Scott Hayden's and people of the world of actually just thinking about the context. And yes, often the challenges are the same with AI, different language on the tin, but it's just applying it to the context of all sectors, isn't it?
Yeah, and we had people from colleges as well. So people who worked in operations and business side. So really trying to include all of the staff, and we're doing a bit more work on it now to kind of update it, particularly thinking about opportunities to support inclusion. So materials that speak to Senkos, TAs, and also kind of operations and business staff as well.
And it's so significant. Like the thing is, though, it will be always a rework and always a retwist, and whether the funding will always be there, but ultimately AI and technology is always on a constant. It's an infinite game, and we know the acceleration of that. So, tell us, I suppose, from your personal perspective, what your most fun and enjoyable element of the work has been?
By far, it's been visiting schools and speaking to such a wide range of people. I mean, it's been quite an honour to be able to work directly with the Department for Education and really understand kind of what they're interested in. But they're also really interested in listening to the sector. So going out and speaking to people has been the most interesting thing, and hearing so many different perspectives and just some of the amazing things, different things that people are doing in colleges and schools as well. And I think at the moment in this current phase, just speaking to having roundtables with TAs talking about what they want AI to do for them and the opportunity, and particularly that audience, TAs, those group of people are often very passionate people who are really passionate about supporting children, and they're really focused on how AI is going to support the goals that they're looking to do, not just using AI for the sake of it.
Well, it's been an absolute pleasure. The awards is kicking back off again and really getting to full steam, but it's been an absolute pleasure to chat to you always, mate. Cheers. So we are joined by the wonderful Louisa. For those people that don't know you, you are the Bett Charity Award partner, but also, even better, you are the Edufuturist Awards partner. I even got our name wrong and everything else. So you are the Edufuturist for last year and this year. So tell us a bit about, for those people that don't know, tell us a bit about yourself.
Okay, so I'm Scottish and I'm joking. So I'm the CEO of a youth mental health charity called Beyond. Yes, we are very, very honoured to be the Bett Awards partner. But we are incredibly honoured to be the Edufuturists charity partner. And honestly, everything that we do at Beyond is about improving access for young people to the mental health support that they deserve, but like actually when they need it. Instead of long wait lists, instead of, rejections, and being part of a community like this, particularly the Wolfpack.
Big shout.
Gonna definitely have to explain that one to Yash. It's just opened up so many doors and so many relationships, and something that is real. It means a lot to us because obviously it means that we can extend the reach of what we do. But of course,
nothing at Beyond happens without our incredible youth board.
Yep.
Standing next to me is the one and only Yash, who has...
And maybe, let's we say half an hour ago, stood up on stage on the lectern, followed by the Dunkerberry and all those people, and absolutely knocked it out of the park. Delivered really a powerful message in such a wonderful way. So tell us about yourself, how you got involved with Beyond, and a little bit more about that.
Okay, so yeah, I'm Yash, I'm 18. I'm currently in year 13. I'm looking at working with these sorts of spaces in the future. Little fun fact I'm going to add in, I'm a Liverpool fan, and right now we're currently winning, I think, against Marseille.
Yeah.
But aside from that, I got involved with Beyond because I just stumbled across a LinkedIn post Louisa made. And she was basically saying, hey, please come help us film for our Now and Beyond festival video. And I came along not knowing what it was about. And she then, after we did filming, I expected basically a thank you and then that's it. And she told me, join the youth board. And she told me, and her colleague Monica told me all about what Beyond is about. And it just amazed me to see how much work they do for such a small team. And being someone who struggled with mental health, I've been in CAMS and a lot of local services before. I feel like it was important to share my story and help other young people not go through the same thing. And it was also important because I'm part of a community where mental health is seen as a bit of a taboo. Like the South Asian community, if you say something like that, you're going to be hung out to dry because it's something that you don't speak about much. It feels like it's a sin. It's not something that you need to talk about, and it's not important to what you're trying to do, which has become like in the high-paying job. But I want people to realize that you can't do anything without looking after your mental health because at one point you're going to fold. And I think that's what Beyond has helped so much. It's helped improve access to mental health for young people a lot more. I mean, I Wish You Knew Festival, we raised so much money for quite a lot of young people across London to get essential therapy. But also with Now and Beyond, we've made sure that so many kids across the whole of the UK in classrooms are able to understand their mental health and well-being much better. And this year with Now and Beyond 2026, where we're releasing it as a whole wide platform all year round, it's going to be so impressive to see how we're going to share our resources from nursery to year 13, even from like 4 to 18-year-olds. I think Beyond's mission is really important. I think that it's only going to keep growing and we're only going to get better and better with the ever-growing support that we're getting from so many different people, and especially the young people that support us within our youth boards. Like all my different peers who do so many different things with us, the ones that have left, the ones that are going to join in another role, all do so much. And that's the core of Beyond. The core is youth-led initiatives. All the stuff that we do is youth-led. Like we do the events, we organize it, we build them. The staff are just sort of in the background. They do the logistics.
You're saying they do nothing? Yeah.
Well, I mean, I think I'm out of a job. I don't know what you think.
But yeah,
we're going to get shouted at.
But I'm going to ask you a quick fire question. Yeah, it has to be quick fire.
Yeah.
Okay, get ready for this.
Okay.
If a 10-year-old asked you why they have to go to school, what would you say?
Friends.
Wonderful. What would you say?
Flourish.
Absolutely love that.
And triumph.
Well, I absolutely love it. It's been an absolute pleasure. Go take your seats. Have a wonderful evening, and we'll see you soon.